Good, man. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thanks for coming on. We just got done doing a private roll sesh. It was excellent.
Thank you.
I highly recommend it for all you jiu-jitsu guys. I think actually those are most of the people that listen to the podcast, I think, are jiu-jitsu.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, if you're
or aspiring to be jiu-jitsu guys.
Yeah, if you're interested, I'm telling you, he's got some really good stuff. I'm not just saying it. I think kind of like we just talked about. I really think genuinely you're on to the next level beyond what we're doing now.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I've been doing it for a while. I mean, I started like in 2005, so I've had the privilege of training with probably the best grapplers in the world. I mean, I've trained with Marcelo Garcia, Hadja Gracie,
Yeah, tell us actually.
Pedro Sauer, like Hoyce. I mean, Jorge and Gracie. I mean, I've trained with some of the greatest minds, I think, in jiu-jitsu, period. So it's been an honor, and it's been an awesome journey.
Awesome. How did tell us the story? How'd you start? Like when?
How'd I start?
Tell us the
so
origins.
my mom and I actually watched the first UFC on pay-per-view. We used to watch boxing all the time, Mike Tyson, like all these different boxing events. And my mom actually took karate with me when I was a kid, she's pretty tough. So we watched it, and I was like, you see this Hoyce Gracie guy. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who half the people were on the thing. I had heard of Art Jamerson, but I, didn't really know much about him. And we watched it, and we watched little Hoyce just like go through everybody. I was like, what the hell is going? What is this jiu-jitsu stuff? Like, I took Aikido jiu-jitsu as a kid, so I had an idea like it's like a judo-esque type of Brazilian jiu-jitsu type of thing. It's like self-defense based, a lot of judo throws. Everything's in Japanese. I don't remember half the names and stuff, but I started that when I was like 9, and so I knew some stuff. Like I knew the basic rear naked choke, and I mean obviously not to the level that I know it now, but I knew some stuff. And so we watched that, and I was like, man, that's really cool, but there was no place around here that did that stuff. And then fast forward to like 2005, UFC's pretty big. My buddy Sean went to his home was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he trained at Jackson School out there because one of his buddies was a police officer and trained out there, and he called me from there and was like, dude, I'm training at Jackson's camp. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, you're not training. And he's like, yeah, I am. And he's like naming off all the people that are there, and I'm like, holy shit, he's like, dude, we got to start training when we get home. I'm like, there's no place around here. He's like, yeah, there's a Hoyce Gracie school. I'm like, dude, that's in New Haven. I'm not driving to New Haven. I lived in South Windsor at the time. And he's like, no, there's one in West Hartford. I'm like, no, there's not. He's like, yes, there is. I found it. Like, I know exactly where it is. I'm like, all right, cool. So he came home. We went there on a Tuesday night. Watched. It was up in this, like, above this hairdresser place. By the time I got to the third stair, my glasses were all fogged up, and it was like a sauna up there. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And we went up there. We watched the class, and the instructor came over. He said, what do you guys think? I'm like, I looked at Sean. I was like, can we start on Thursday? Because they had classes Tuesday, Thursday, and I think Saturday, and I think Sunday was open mat, or Saturday was open mat and Sunday was class. I can't remember. It's been so long. And that was it, man.
This was in Connecticut?
Yeah, it was in West Hartford, yep.
Nice.
Yeah, so just like after that, I was hooked. And then 2 weeks later, Hoyce was teaching in New Jersey a seminar, and I took the day off. Sean took the day off, and we drove down to Jersey and went to our first seminar 2 weeks after we started training. Went to a Hoyce seminar. And we had lunch with Hoyce. He was like when we met him, it was like he knew us forever. He's like, hey, brother, gave us a big hug. I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. I thought he was going to be this big stuck up, like, big UFC guy, but he was actually pretty nice. And, yeah, it was cool.
So you trained when you were a kid with the judo jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, it's called Aikido jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
So you did that when you were a kid? Anything through kind of your teenage years?
Yeah, teenage years. I took a style of karate called Ketsuke karate. I did that for a little while, but baseball was always my first passion, so that always kind of took precedent. And I would play baseball here and there, and then I ended up like throwing my arm out my senior year, messing it up pretty bad. So I obviously that was done, but I always had a heavy bag. I always like practiced stuff. Whether it was katas or whatever, or just horsing around with some friends, I was always into the fighting game, I guess, and doing something and trying to expand my knowledge, you know. I was a big Bruce Lee fan when I was a kid, obviously, like everybody like around my age. Watched Kung Fu Theater on Saturdays. Thought I wanted to be a ninja when I grew up, you know, like just stupid shit, man. You know, jumping off of freaking the couch when my mom was like, I gotta get this guy into something. I'm gonna freaking wreck my house.
Nice. Okay, so what year was it that you started training in Connecticut? Like, how long you've been training now? Well, in Connecticut, let's say in Hartford, West Hartford.
January 18th, 2005, I started.
2005 to today, you've been
Been doing jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Nice.
Straight up.
And so who are you training with now?
I train under Jay Bell at Gracie Farmington Valley. Jay Bell and Jim Campbell, guys I've been training with forever. Jay was actually, you know, he was a purple belt when I started, and I thought he was a black belt. Like, he just decimated everybody, you know, at the school. And, you know, I think he showed me, like, I went to one of his classes, and he showed, like, the first sequence of, well, like, arm bar, triangle, omoplata, and I was just
mind blown, right?
Yeah, I just blew my mind. I was like, whoa, you can link all those together? Yeah. Like, holy crap, you know? And then I remember I rolled with him, and he did them all on me, and I was like, holy shit, like, there's some stuff to this, you know? Brad, actually, we talked about Brad earlier. Brad was the first person I ever rolled with. He armbarred the shit out of me. Like, I was like, and I thought, you know, I'm like, I had some training background. You know, this guy's much smaller than me. I was like 225 at the time, and he fucking just annihilated me. He was a purple belt too. I was just like, oh my god, like, I walked out of there defeated, but at the same time, I was like, man, if those guys can do that shit to me, like, when I get to be their level, like, how good am I going to be? Like, you know, like, being the size that I was, because Brad was small. I mean, Jay's about the same size as me. We're roughly about the same, you know, same size, so, but I was like, damn, these guys are freaking amazing, you know? That stuff was just blew my mind.
So this is, it's my understanding that your school is a kind of an affiliate school from Norwalk, right? Yep.
Yeah, we're affiliated with Marcio. Great, freaking awesome guy. I love that guy so much. He's so cool.
Everyone loves. Everyone.
Yeah. There's not, you can't not like Marcio. He is just so awesome. Like, the first time I met him was like we knew each other forever. He gave me a big hug, and I was like, man, I don't know this guy, but he is so cool. You know.
Who's so is the school that you're at, is one of his black belts up there?
He
or is he, what's the affiliation?
You know, to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure how that happened. I know that Jay had him for a seminar when Jay was teaching at Plus One in West Hartford, and you know, I guess he just got affiliated with that way, and
so like friend, like kind of like association.
And we just went under his.
Not like a Brad school, like Brad's one of his.
Right.
Opened his own school.
Right. Okay. No, Jay was already a black belt when we started, you know, being affiliated with Marcio.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your jiu-jitsu. I think, you know, in the short time that we were training, I mean, like I said, I'm blown away by some of the things that you've come up with, and kind of like the principles behind it, and then to see them put into action, where you're like, we're all trying to roll as if, you know, not use any energy, and roll as if we're kind of a you know, like I was saying, it's, you know, you want to be like a sandbag and not like a rigid piece of wood, and
right.
You want to use not power but use technique. But you've kind of taken that in a very unique direction where, you know, for example, so the folks are getting an understanding of what we're talking about. You know, if I'm in someone's close guard and I just do these subtle positionings, you know, bringing your knees together, arching your back just a little bit. For me, on top, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. It actually feels kind of like I should be doing something different. Like, it just feels wrong almost.
Right.
But with your feedback, you're saying, no, I'm in a compromising position. My back is arched. There's pressure on my feet right now. I'm uncomfortable, and I can't really do anything to you. I can't break your posture. I have to like do a sit up almost to get grips. Tell us just how you come up with these concepts?
I don't think I've come up with anything. I think it's just a matter of like being able to go to these different seminars and see different people and be exposed to different methodologies of how people approach this thing that we do, and being able to pluck little pieces here and there, you know, like he does this, I'm going to take that, and he does that, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to make them my own thing, you know, combine them into something that works for me. Because, like, be quite honest, like, you could teach me a move and it may not work for me, you know, but I can take that if I have the wherewithal, I can take that and be like, how can I adapt this to make it work for me? So there might be little subtle nuances of how I place my hand, where I put this, where I put my shin, where I put my foot, little things, because my body makeup is different than yours. We're two different people. We have different strengths, flexibility levels, athleticisms, like all that stuff comes into play. And I think that, too many people, they learn a move and they try it and they get frustrated because they can't figure it out, or why isn't it working for me, when what they really should be thinking is, how do I make this work for me? Like, how can I take what I just learned and adjust it for me, And there might be some things that you just is really not gonna work, But I think because I don't get to train as much as I'd like to train, I think what I've done is I've taken more of a philosophical approach to it, and like, okay, I see this. What's the mechanics behind it? Why does it work? How do I get it to work for me with my body type and my body style and the attributes that I have? And, then, and I think the teaching aspect, like, I've been teaching for a while, and being able to relay the information back to other people and get it to work for them, helps me to learn more about the actual technique itself, So I think I've just been able to like grasp, the principles and concepts that other people teach, and just been able to like adapt it for me and make it work for me, And that place down there, that mat that we were just on, it's just a laboratory, man. You go down there and you try stuff out and you see if it works, and if it doesn't, then maybe you revisit it down the road, or you keep working at it until you finally get the chemical compound that works, And you're going to put chemicals together and it's just going to blow up in your face. And then sometimes you're going to put them together and you're going to, discover the cure for cancer or something, And it's just like, I think that's the approach you need to take with this. But I think a lot of people, they just get frustrated and like, it doesn't work. And then they just abandon ship.
Yeah, they learn a move, or maybe they try a move and they get smashed a bunch of times, and they go, either it doesn't work or it doesn't work for me, and they abandon it.
I mean, I did that in the beginning, like I was a blue belt, white belt, I learned stuff. I'm like, shit doesn't work, And now it's like my mainstay move. It's one of the things that I go to. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's
just a circle of events, man.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Where like, one of the things that I was talking to George about on the last podcast we did, it was like, where's jiu-jitsu going to go from here? Like, from the leg game, which is kind of destroying all the traditional guys right now because they don't train it. And, I really, I'm not just saying, I really think you're onto something where it's like, no, the next level of jiu-jitsu, I think now, is going to be, it's this, like you're saying, we're not like grip fighting, we're not using almost any strength at all, we're just using these frames everywhere.
But that's nothing new. I mean, that's old shit.
Yeah, it's old, and like the principles are old, but I think how you're applying it, like when you think of frames, you're thinking like, I'm keeping pressure off of me. You're not like thinking, I'm going to use this frame to pass like a bottom, like someone's legs, like from bottom,
right,
and everything. You're not like, because those I'm thinking, you use grips, you use some frames, but like there's more to it. You're just like, no grips. I'm not worrying about that. Let them have grips on me. I'm not worrying about breaking them. No. I'm just going to frame and just lean into them, put the pressure on them. Yeah. Let gravity almost do the work for me, and then just pass. And it was because I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, frames have always been there, and they're an essential part of it. But I think how you're using them is really unique and different from how I haven't seen anyone else do it really this way.
Yeah. Well, I like, everybody's got their own approach to things, I guess, and this is the thing that I've been like working on, and it's been working for me. So I'm just trying to, every time I get on the mats, I just try to refine it.
Do you find that what you're doing is unique? Like, do you see other people doing what you're doing? Really?
I don't know. I guess I don't really think about it too much.
I guess you don't really think about how, I'm so cool and so awesome.
No, I don't think I honestly don't think that. But I don't think I don't know, man. I just try to I try to learn from everybody. So I don't care if you're a white belt with no stripes or a black belt with 150 stripes. Like, I'm gonna try to pick your brain and get something that is gonna be useful for me.
Yeah, that's one of the best ways to go about it. 'Cause I mean, otherwise, if you have the, I don't know what to call it, but like if you have like, I'm a purple belt, and so I automatically should be better than all the blue belts and the white belts. You know,
No,
I don't
man.
think you're going to last in the game because...
Dude, listen, what happens when you get with a Division I collegiate level wrestler, you know, that's a white belt in jiu-jitsu and just freaking dominates you from, you know, you're been doing this for 10 years, jiu-jitsu, and he just gets on top and just smashes the crap out of you, you know? It's like, now, take that same guy and put him on his back, it's going to be a different story, right? Will he be able to survive and defend himself? Probably, okay? But is he going to have the same, you know, level of competitiveness that you have, or the same level of technique or whatever? Probably not. But his top game is going to be ridiculous, you know? So you can't, to me, it's like you can't look at somebody and be like, oh, he's a white belt. Like, I think that's where people, and the best way I heard it was when I went to Pedro Sauer seminar. I've been to several of them, but I think he's phenomenal. Like, I just love the way he teaches. I love his philosophy behind it and his, just the principles and stuff. And he said, you know, a lot of times you put the belt on, people look at that belt, and that's like, they either get anxiety because of the belt, or they get the ego saying, oh, this guy, I'm going to smash him, right? But you don't know. You have no idea. You don't know what his level of competence, you don't know where he is, you know? And he said, start, you know, trying to think of people just like a skeleton, you know? Your skeleton, the way your, you know, skeleton moves, it only moves certain ways. It only bends certain ways.
Yes.
You know? And as soon as I grasped that principle, I think my jiu-jitsu kind of like took off a little bit. You know, I would think I was at a plateau at that point, and I was like, man, you know, I used to roll with some of the big guys in the school, and I'm like, damn, as soon as I would see their size, I'm like, fuck, you know? Like, I don't want to roll with this dude, man. He just fucking gets on top of me, and I can't do anything. He just smashes me. And then when I started using that, just like, all right, it's just a bag of bones, man. You know, how can I manipulate his skeleton to get what I need to get? I think that was huge for me.
Yeah, and,
You know?
and I mean, part of your game also is having I wouldn't even say a plan. It's like a fighting philosophy that you were talking about, where you have an outlook of, like, for example, you know, you will relax in all positions. You will, like, even if you're getting smashed, you will, which almost triggers the guy to react,
To do
do
stuff,
something,
yeah.
to move instead of getting smashed and hugged and, you know, crushed or whatever, they'll be like, oh, this is having no effect on him. It's not like it's doing anything.
But none of this stuff is new. Like, for me, it's like, it's stuff that I learned from other instructors. Like, that's something I got from Rob Kahn, you know? Went to a Rob Kahn seminar. I've done privates with him, and he's just like, he blows my mind. Every time I train with that guy, he says something, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man? How come I never thought of that? You know, I've been doing this for a long time, but, you know, obviously he's been doing it way longer. But, you know, and that was one of his things, and, you know, just relax. And I remember rolling with him at a private. He's like, relax, Jay, relax. And I'm like, I'm thinking I am relaxed, man. Like, if I relax anymore, I'm going to be dead, you know? But I wasn't really relaxed. And, you know, but that was one of his things. Like, if somebody's a side mount on you, and he learned that from Elio. And he talks about it. He tells this story where he did a private lesson. He was with Elio, and Hoist was there, and Horian was there. It was like, everybody was there. And he asked Elio, like, hey, how do I get out from bottom side? And Elio said, go ahead, put me in side control. So this guy was like 80-something years old. So, you know, here's Rob, gets on top of him, and Elio's just like whistling and like tapping his hand. And, you know, he says he looks around the room, he looks at Hoist, and Hoist just shrugs his shoulders. He looks at Horian, Horian shrugs his shoulders, and Elio's like, all right, you know, when you start beating me up, I'll escape. So Rob says he moved one hand, did this, next thing you know, like, freaking, he escaped out the back door and he was out. And that just triggered something with me. Like, I was like, holy shit. You know? It was just that right time, you know? You always have these, like, right times where you have these light bulb epiphany things that happen in this world that we're in. And, you know, sometimes you're ready to accept it and sometimes you are not. And that was just my time. And I was like, oh, my God, like, that's brilliant, you know? Guy's not hurting me, he's not punching me, he's not submitting me, he's not doing anything, he's just laying on top of me. All right, can I weather this storm? Sure. You know, does it suck? Of course it sucks. But if I show him that it sucks, it's going to suck even more. If I take a nap on him and don't show him that it sucks, now he's thinking, oh, crap. Now the pressure of the position is getting to him. He's thinking, I'm not doing anything, I got to do something. Then he moves, you're waiting for that move. As soon as he moves, all you need is a little bit of, you know, it's timing.
And also, I like your, I don't know what I would call it, your outlook on maybe like longevity. You know, why you train almost. Like, you training to be the best in the world? Are you training to be proficient in self-defense? Are you training for competition? And for me, I think we're on the same page. Where, like, I'm training for longevity.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big competitor. You know, I competed when I was in wrestling. You know, obviously you have to go to meets and stuff.
Yeah.
And I never, I mean, you know, I wasn't really that good. I would show up. I, you know, won a couple matches. I lost more than I won, basically.
Okay. Which means you learn more.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it was different context too. I mean, you know, we had guys who were really good, and they would go to the camps and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the coaches probably paid a little bit more attention to them, and they didn't, you know, it's high school. You know, it's a different setting. But like, I hated it so much. I think everyone does. I think you know, those anxiety.
Yeah, the nerves,
everything.
the butterflies. Yep.
And I remember asking one of the coaches at the time, I go, can I just show up and train and then not go to the meets? And he's like, no, you have to go to the meets. Like, what's the point of training? And I was like, oh. So,
well, they probably needed somebody in your weight division too. So
yep,
I mean that.
Yeah, it got tactical. Yeah, where it's like, you know, if you could get down to 145.
Oh
and
yeah.
That, and that way he can, like, it was, you know, it is tactical.
It's just it's a strategy.
You know, they'll be like, well, they have their state champ here, so you know, you go, which really is like, go get slaughtered real quick.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a funny story. I remember everyone was telling me this guy, he was the state champ. Or, you know, he was one of the guys who won the states. I don't know if he was the state. He probably was the state champ. And everyone was like, I didn't really think much about it at first. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to crush with it. Everyone else is like, oh, dude, you're going to roll with him. Oh, see you later, man. See you on the other side. Like, and now I'm like, okay, this is going to suck. Like,
they already had you defeated, yeah.
So now I'm already, like, anxious because, you know, we're going to go compete. And now I'm just like, everyone's like, God, this is going to be so bad for you, and you're going to get crushed and this and that. So it just really sucked.
Nice teammates.
Oh, yeah, no, it was great. And so I get out there, and I don't even know, I was like, I have nothing to lose, I'm just going to, like, go just, like, blast double or something. And we go out of bounds, and then my best move was the switch. That was my number one favorite move that I did. And so obviously that's what I did. And it was so funny because I guess the guy, he was probably also all week. We were like, oh, you'll be fine. You're hitting this nobody up. You know, you'll be fine. So he probably was like, oh, relax. I hit this switch like my life depended on it because I kind of did. And I remember them, like, I guess I almost got points on. Or maybe I even did get points. I don't know. But then he got pissed. Because then he was like, oh, you got points on me? No, this isn't happening. Then I remember...
Turned it up.
He turned it up. And I remember he was... Because, you know, all these guys, they have their tricks. Like, they pin you down. They, like, you know, he was like, choking me. I remember he was, like, literally choking me. So I go to pin myself. I go to put my shoulder down. He pulls my shoulder up. So I can't pin myself. He's like just smashing. Oh, no,
he just wanted to make you suffer.
He wanted me to like suffocate a little bit and suffer a little bit. And finally, like, I got pinned and everything, and everyone was like, I mean, they were like, I get back there, and everyone was silent. And then one of the guys goes, oh, dude, yeah, he was like, I was like, did you see that out there? Like, I was trying to pin myself. And they go, we saw it. And like, all the coaches were like, Steve, like, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just funny afterwards, but...
That's awesome.
So needless to say, yeah, I'm not. I say I've said in the past, like, oh, I should compete, I should just do it anyway, but I don't really want to. I don't really have the real drive for it.
You have to have the. To me, you have to have the drive to want to compete, and you know, we talk about this egoless jiu-jitsu, but to compete, you have to have an ego. You have to. Right? There's no way for you to compete and not have some kind of an ego to go into that, because you have to have that drive to do it. You have to have the time to put into it, to do it, to put the time on the mat, and you know, have that little bit of ego, like, I'm gonna go in and crush this. So you got to have that. You know, if you don't have that and you're competing, it's like, oh boy, you know, like you're gonna have a rough time. You know, it's gonna be a lot harder for you.
Yeah, and especially for me, one of the biggest, I guess, turnoffs from it is my goal. My personal was longevity, like, and that's what we share. Is I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't ever.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to get to a point where I'm broken or injured, and then I can't, like, I'm in pain, and like I want to be functional with all my body, my back, my arms, my legs. Like, I want everything to be functional.
Bottom line, working out, any kind of working out, shouldn't involve injuries. You know, like, you shouldn't be getting injured. I mean, granted, the injuries happen in jiu-jitsu, absolutely. You know, but I think if you look at jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, you look at like a lot of these other, you know, things that people do, jiu-jitsu for the most part is very safe.
Yes,
You know?
I agree.
You know, granted, there is times when people get hurt, you know, and it's because somebody goes too far or they don't tap quick enough, you know. Like to me, like my tap hand is ready. It's quick.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna put myself in a compromising position where I can't fucking walk tomorrow because somebody snapped my ankle or something, you know. Like I have a job that I have to go to every day, and I have people that depend on me. So, you know, I got little kids to chase around the house, man. So I can't, you know, I can't be, you know, I've had injuries. I've had broken ribs. I've had separated ribs. I've, you know, messed up my knee, you know. I got in a motorcycle accident in 2000, hit a tree at 70-something miles an hour, and, like, was laying on a couch for 9 months. So, you know, like, I've been there, like, with the injuries, and I'm good with it now. I'm 45. I just want to train and have fun and learn as much as I can and pass on what I learned to other people and make them better and make them so that they can kick my ass, and then hopefully I'll learn something from that, you know? So that's just like, that's my goal, is like just to, you know, get the guys that I train with, like try to get them a little bit better than me, man, you know?
Yeah,
Because they're younger and they got the drive and they want to do it, and if something that I can contribute to them that makes them better, then that's like, that makes me feel better, you know?
Yeah, I think, and you know, it's from day one. I think anytime I've heard people talk about competition, it's like, you know, and I mean, this is the idea that got planted in my head, I guess, in an early age with or well, I guess early in my career, I should say, is that it's like, well, you know, for the gym, you know, we do this, and well, you know, we tap this. For competition, you rip that arm off, or you rip that, you bring that foot home, or whatever.
And the thing is how do you differentiate that? So like you're training your brain to do one thing, and then you're trying to do something else in the gym, like.
I guess that's why they have competition class, so that you can.
And I get it,
you know?
but it's hard. I mean, it's hard to flip that switch, you know. Some people can't even do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you almost kind of have to want to hurt the person in a sense for competition, because that's kind of, you know, it almost is. It's what it takes a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but I mean, I think you have to have that.
Just be ready for it.
You have to have that, like, I'm gonna hold this until the person taps, and sometimes they don't tap. And then the next thing you know is like you hear crunch or snap or, you know, crack, snap, or pop, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad because you didn't mean to hurt the person, but it happened, you know, and it was because they didn't tap, because they're in that competitive mindset where I'm not tapping, you know, and I know, like, I have friends of mine that have, you know, they're super high level competitive, been to ADCCs, like all this stuff, and have had their ankle broken, and, you know. And it's a good thing, like, they're gym owners, and, you know, like, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. I just can't. Like, I gotta go to work, man. I gotta pay this mortgage. I don't have that, you know, where somebody can teach class for me, you know. And that's awesome that they can do that. It's great. I mean, I guess that's the ultimate goal when you get into this, is, like, have your own school and do all that. I mean, I just, like, you know, I like teaching for Jay and Jim. I like going there. I like doing my thing. It's one day a week. I enjoy it. You know, it's on a Friday. I teach Friday classes, so by the end of the week, I'm like smoked. It's a good stress reliever for me.
Yes.
You know, I go in, I teach a little something, and then we roll for a little while, and, you know, I leave there refreshed. Take a shower, I'm good. Go home, nice. Sometimes I have a beer, sometimes I have a little shot of whiskey, you know, whatever. You know, so, you know, to me, this is like, you're training for life.
Yes. So,
you know, do you have to do it 5 days a week? I don't think so. You know, there's people out there with the philosophy that you're not training at least 3 days a week, you shouldn't be training. I don't believe that. You know, that's not the way I look at things. I think any kind of training is good training. You know, what do you take from that training? You know, are you asking the why questions? I'm a why guy. You know, if you show me something, I'm like, why does that work? You know, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I really truly want to know, like, why is that work?
Genuine, yeah.
Yeah, like,
genuinely curious.
Why is that work as opposed to this, or why is, you know, like, how are you putting into context? Is it, you know, is it only work in a certain venue? You know, so, you know, that's kind of how, like, I approach this. I mean, I've been doing it for most of my life. I've been thinking about it or doing it or something since I was 9 or 10. You know, so, and I've had to use it in real life a few times. So, I
That's
know
something you can tell us about.
I know what works and what doesn't work. You know, I trained a lot of shit that doesn't work. You know, I worked in a bar for a while as a bouncer, and I realized real quickly what worked and what didn't work.
It's amazing that when you have a real resistant opponent,
Oh my
how
God.
the world changes.
It's like, holy shit, man, that didn't work. Now it's like, now your brain's like on 100% overdrive because you just thought something that you've been training most of your life was going to have success and it failed. So now you're like, fuck, what do I do now? And trust me when I tell you, you're not going to learn a new fucking technique, a new move, a new anything in the moment. It's not going to happen. So now it's like, shit. It's like that oh shit moment.
Yeah.
So
what's there seems to be a story behind that.
No, I
A
mean,
couple stories.
no, I mean, I've.
What was there a time where you I guess what I'm sensing is that maybe you're training like, I don't know, maybe a striking art or something different.
Yeah,
and then you went
mean,
to apply
I think a lot of striking arts. I think striking is one of the hardest things to teach people.
I think so too.
I think it is one of the most hardest things that you can try to teach somebody, especially someone that has zero athleticism, because it requires a lot of athleticism. You know, it requires for you to have a complete understanding of what your body does, how your hips move, how you drive off your feet, you know, how to twist your shoulders. Like, a lot of that has to do with, you know, being very mechanical. And most people have no idea how their body works at all.
Yeah. There's also a really interesting concept where, and I only learned this kind of recently, where like you could have a bigger, stronger guy and a smaller guy, and they'll both like hit like a thing that measures like the force of a punch.
Yeah.
But like the physics behind a punch, I don't even know. Do we really even fully understand them? Because just there's something like in a person where a little guy can just punch something. He just has something in him where he will punch harder than another guy who just doesn't have it in him.
Yeah, I mean, look at Bruce Lee. He was a little guy. He was like 145 pounds, maybe 160 at his max, and that guy could hit harder than most people twice his size.
And it's like you both people could have equal technique, equal time training, but
Yeah.
like, there's some kind of human instinct or drive that like
And I think-
behind a punch.
I think Mike Tyson says it the best. Like, somebody asked him one time, like, do you think you're born a puncher? And he said yes, and I believe that. I believe that you're either born with it or you're not, and I don't think it's something that you can. I mean, because I've trained thousands of people, you know, and I've trained thousands of people striking, grappling. People pick up like that, man. They just gravitate to it, and I think it has something to do with your inner child. You know, what did you do as a kid? You wrestled with your friends. You wrestled with your brother, your sister, whatever. Like my kids, they're 5 years apart, and they're fucking, I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with me doing jiu-jitsu and they come to my class all the time, but they're fucking rolling around on the ground, trying to choke each other, like getting on top of each other and just grappling. And I think it's just more of a natural thing that you have innate in you from childhood, where striking is just not, it's just not there, man. And then you're teaching your kids, don't hit people. And then you send them to a karate class where they're hitting people and they're learning how to hit people. It's kind of counterintuitive. Like, it's, how do you differentiate the two? How does a little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, in their little tiny mind at that time, figure out when and where to do that?
Well, I think that's I think with every martial arts, it's always the principle is always you only do this, you only use these techniques you're learning.
When you're that little, how do you figure out when that point in time is? You can't. You're too little.
Trial and error.
Yeah, I mean, you're too little. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
guess,
think the grappling arts, it's like, throw every kid in there, man.
I agree.
I think it should be taught in schools. I think it should be taught as a curriculum in schools. I think they should start it from the time they're about 6 or 7 years old. It'll instill discipline. You can still do all the disciplinary stuff that's involved with it, the bowing and all that, if you want to do that. Like, our school, we're very laid back. We don't do any of that stuff. But, you know, I think that stuff is, you know, awesome, especially from a child standpoint, and teaching them how to, the fundamentals, balance, you know, teaching them how to stand in base, teaching them how to get up properly, you know, teaching them, like, if somebody tries to pull you and take you somewhere, how to stop that from happening.
Self-defense.
All the self-defense stuff, and just do that all the way from, like, you know, 6 to, like, when you graduate high school to 18. You know, think about if we were walking down the street and, you know, you went to a completely different school out in freaking Oklahoma somewhere, but you did all that stuff and I did all that stuff. We're less apt to get in a confrontation together because I don't know if you're still training how much you know, how well you adapted to the training, and how good you are, like, we're less apt to get in some kind of physical altercation because, like, we've both had the same kind of training throughout our lives.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree 100% that the people who engage in the physical arts are, I mean, they're not, those aren't the people getting into fights. Like, what I've learned, kind of just, I don't know whether it's like bully psychology, but like the people who are like, the people who seek problems and like are eager to like, or at least sound eager to get into fights and everything, they don't train. You know that like you already know like, okay, if this actually becomes a problem, and
they have very little confidence in themselves. It's almost like they're doing it to
compensate.
Yeah, exactly.
But like at least my vibe is that they don't train, that you will have the upper edge. Like if someone's like, no dude, I don't want to fight, that guy is a killer probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the guy who's like, no, I don't want to fight, like we're good.
Yep.
He is like, I think of and actually I was gonna say, go ahead.
And people like that look at their posture too. So if they're saying I don't want to fight, and their hands are up and they're showing you their hands, and their elbows are down and they're nice and relaxed, you're like, oh shit, this guy knows something,
Yeah, but like you or I would look at that and be like, oh, he's being defensive, like he's moving to the side a little,
right?
He's if
he's moving, he's angling off, and he's doing all those things, like, oh shit, this guy knows something, because where your average typical guy that doesn't know anything, they're posturing on you. I call it peacocking. They're sticking their chest out, putting their hands up, that kind of stuff.
Right in your face, and the guy is like this, you're like, that guy is gonna kill you.
Absolutely.
He's a killer. And like, only people who train know that. And because like, even if I were inclined to be more of a bully or anything, I've been beat up and choked out and armbarred and guillotined. I've been destroyed so many times. Yeah. I would never, but then they'll always let go, because I'll get the tap and they'll let go. If it's the street and I'm a bully and I go attack that guy or attack you or something, you might not let go. You might not be nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's terrifying to me. So I'm like, I don't want to get in a fight.
Well, it's funny because like you listen to Joe Rogan. He says it the best. He's like, dude, I've been fighting my whole life. I've been training to fight and learning to fight my whole life. I'm terrified to get in a street fight. And you are, because you never know what's going to happen. It's like I try to teach this all the time, like the striking arts, like, take Krav, and there's no disparaging on Krav. Like, Krav is cool, it's got its attributes, right? But I think there's a lot of things that it lacks, Yeah,
I agree.
And, like somebody tries to do something to you and you punch him in the head 17 times, you just give that guy 17 concussions. You can't. Now, are you liable for that legally, right? And a lot of things is like, you're teaching stuff to people, but you don't know what the legal ramifications are going to be down the road if they actually use that on somebody, right? So now you're putting that into their nervous system. You're training it, so it's getting completely ingrained in your central nervous system, so that when somebody does something that specific and you react like that, and the person dies later on or something, or you hit them so hard that they hit their head on the curb and they freaking die, guess who's going to jail for that?
Yeah.
You are, even though you were trying to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So it makes you look like the aggressor. Whereas like in jiu-jitsu, you can be like, listen, man, I don't want any trouble, and you can back up, and if they keep going forward and you're backing up and they keep going forward and they back up that one last time and you time it and you take them and you grab them in a, like a not even a single leg, you just grab them around the waist and the body fold takedown and take them to the ground and get on top of them and just hold them there and be like, listen, man, leave me alone.
You don't even need to submit them.
No.
You can just like stay on top and just, do the skydive.
Yeah,
and
just be like, leave me alone, or get them into something that's compromising, like an arm lock or a choke, and just hold it and be like, listen, man, leave me alone. And you can put a little bit tighter. You don't necessarily have to put them to sleep. You don't have to break their arm, but you let them know that, listen, this is no joke, and I can hurt you anytime I want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt you, and then you can hold them there and say, hey, man, do me a favor, call the cops right now. And you can hold them there until the cops get there. And guess what? You didn't get hurt. They didn't get hurt. But they learned a valuable lesson, maybe, that I probably shouldn't have messed with that dude, But, and legally, you'd probably be, cops are probably going to ask you some questions, and they're definitely going to view the videotapes of all the world star people around that are videotaping it and not helping you at all.
Yeah.
But, you're probably going to be good with that. Whereas if you just punch somebody and they hit their head on the freaking corner of a truck bumper.
Well, that's the thing, is that jiu-jitsu, they call it the gentle art, but I like to
There's
think
nothing gentle about jiu-jitsu. There's nothing. I don't know who came up with that. There's nothing gentle about
it's
jiu-jitsu.
a translation, isn't it? Like the Japanese
Maybe.
word or
I don't know.
something?
But I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a while, and there's nothing gentle about it.
But
Getting choked, arm barred, foot locked, pressure, somebody freaking just putting pressure on you. There's nothing gentle about that at all.
But I guess the reason they call it that, I guess the argument would be, is that it's, you have a spectrum of control where it's like, I can dictate where I can use very little force, or I can go all the way to breaking the arm.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
with striking, it's either nothing or everything. Like, there's no, there's no real in between.
And coming from kind of like a striking background, you can't, like you and I, we can't put gloves on. Even if we put gloves on, right? Gloves on, sparring gear. We can't go 100%.
Exactly.
There's no way. One of us is going to get hurt.
Yes.
Like bad. So it's like they still teach it at the state police. I think they still they still have the guys
Boxing.
box. I don't even think they teach them how to box. I think they just put gloves on and go in there so they can see what it's like to get hit. I think that is, and I'm surprised nobody's been killed yet, because you get somebody that's 240 that knows how to punch, and you get somebody else in there 200, 240 that doesn't really know how to punch, or never been in a fight, or doesn't know anything about it, and gets his bell rung really bad or worse. I'm surprised nothing like that has really happened yet. And that, to me, it's like, why are we doing this? Do you really know what it do you really have to get punched in the face hard to know what it's like to?
Well, I guess you can make the same argument, but with like pepper spray,
Yeah.
You have to get sprayed. I guess the idea is we want to pepper spray you directly so that, because the odds are you're probably never going to get pepper sprayed directly.
Not directly in the face. I mean, also,
because you'll look away and you'll be affected by it,
right,
because you've been through the horrible experience of.
Yeah, I mean, you know what the real realities of it are, like full force, the full brunt of it. But yeah, in reality, like, you're never going to get a direct dose of it,
or at least you as the officer, like, you'll never.
Right.
Odds are you never will get directly sprayed.
Not to, unless your partner is like a complete idiot. But that, and trust me when I tell you, that has happened. So that has happened.
Well, this is a great segue, I think, into law enforcement stuff. You were a sheriff. My understanding is you were a sheriff, and now you're a lieutenant judicial marshal.
Yep.
And did your interest in martial arts affect, kind of like, did it inspire you to become a police officer? Was it being in law enforcement? Did that, like, which one motivated the other, or was it just kind of like?
I don't think either one of them motivated either. I don't. To be honest, I went to school for auto body. I love working on cars. I didn't show you my car down there, sir. But
I saw it. No, I went to school also for automotive technology.
That's what I originally went to school for at New England Institute of Technology in Rhode Island, and right out of high school. And I did the auto body program, and I was supposed to do the automotive program, the mechanics. And this stuff I did since I was a kid. Me and my dad, that's a 66 Corvette down there. My dad bought it a week after I was born. We started working on it when I was 11. We did a lot of the stuff together. I did me and my old boss did a lot of the body work on it together, and I painted the whole thing. I made a custom color. I made my own paint color and did all that.
Oh,
wow. And it's just something that I was always really passionate about. Really liked doing working with my hands and stuff. I just thought, like, somebody's going to get to work because I did my job today, So I always liked that. And then when I got through the auto body program, I was like, man, I just really like doing this. I like painting. Like, I loved it. So I kind of abandoned the rest of the program. I didn't go for the automotive part, the mechanic part, and went and worked in an auto body shop. And a week out of school, I had a job. And I started working at a dealership, and it was, grunt, sanding, buffing, doing that kind of stuff. And occasionally they'd let me paint something small, and and then eventually I worked my way to another shop, a couple other shops, and was painting and doing that more full time. And I worked at my last shop, and then I was painting like everything that came out of the shop, and I just really, really liked it. And I got hurt one time. I was actually grinding the door, and I got a piece of metal in my eye.
Oh, no glasses?
Yeah, no. Well, I had like my regular glasses on, but the spark went up. I was putting a new door skin on. And I was grinding the edge of the door, and a spark went up and hit me in the eye, and I didn't think much of it. I just kind of like blinked it out or whatever and kept working. A couple days later, it was snowing, and it was a really sunny day, and I was coming down the hill, and I couldn't see because the glare off the snow was blinding me, and I was like, what the hell? And my eye was bothering me. So I went to the eye doctor. He's like, oh, you got a piece of metal in there, and your eye's healing over it, and the metal's rusting. I'm like, well, get it out, you know?
Yeah.
And so he had to use this like tiny little drill to drill it out. I was like,
God.
and I had to wear an eye patch like a fucking pirate, and I couldn't be around dust. And I'm like, dude, I work in a body shop. He's like, I don't know. So I was like writing estimates and like working in the office for a couple days. And my mom was like, you need to get a job with benefits and like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, now I'm like, I'm getting older. And I'm in my early to mid 20s. Like,
You're getting older. Isn't that funny?
I'm
Think
like,
about it now.
I'm like,
I'm getting older. And I'm
like,
25.
maybe she, you know, I'm like, I'm in an industry where nobody has insurance. Where am I going? I look at these old body guys that are in their 50s and 60s, and they're fucking coughing, and they look like they're 150 years old, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, you know? So, the girl I was dating at the time, her dad was a sheriff. He was like a bigwig, and he was like, I'll get you an application. I'm not guaranteeing anything. You still got to pass the test. We had to take the corrections test at the time. He's like, you got to pass the test. And he's like, you know, if you pass that, then see what happens. I was like, all right. So I took the test. I passed it. I was in the process of doing other. I was in I took the Enfield PD test. I passed that. And then I had taken the corrections test, and I passed that. So I was kind of like in the process of doing other law enforcement things.
The written test.
Yeah, yeah. And I had already taken the written and the physical for Enfield PD. So,
was the physical the same as it is kind of today, like the running, push-ups, sit-ups?
yeah, it was run. It was like you had to bench press a certain amount of weight.
Oh, yeah,
It wasn't push-ups. You had to bench press. Yeah, you had to bench press like your body weight or a percentage of it, and then you had to do sit-ups and sit and reach, like stupid simple stuff. You know, I was in really good shape at the time, so it wasn't like that hard. So I did that, and then I made it all the way through Enfield PD to like the oral board at the end, and then I guess I didn't do so well. You know, but a lot of that stuff is very political too. You know,
Well, actually,
small towns and stuff, and it's like whatever. It is what it is. It was a good experience, you know. Like hey, and so I actually got into the marshals. I was working at a company called Space Fitters, and you know, one of my really good friends, Donnie. He's my friend to this day. We've been friends for over 20 years. Like he's my partner at work, and I got into the sheriffs and quit Space Fitters, went to the academy, and here I am. You know,
Awesome.
so it wasn't like I had some big aspiration to do it, or it just kind of like fell in my lap, and I tried to take advantage of what I was offered. You know, so and at the time when we were sheriffs, we didn't have benefits, but they were talking about moving into state, and they were going to have state benefits and all that stuff. So I was like, it was like a crapshoot, man. I was like freaking playing craps, like rolling the dice. Like, is this gonna work or is it not gonna work? If it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to look for something else, you know. So it just happened to work out. So and here I am, almost, you know, I'm almost at my 20. And
So you were a sheriff, and then remind me, the sheriffs became
sheriffs became marshals in 2000. They went from the executive branch to the judicial branch. Which, you know, my personal opinion wasn't a great move, but, you know, happened, so got to deal with it. And yeah, I started in 99. I started in March of 99. So technically my 20 years was March 18th of this year, but because they didn't do the transformation over until 2001, I believe, they gave you time backdated to July 1st of 2000. So technically, according to their calculations, my 20 won't be until July 1st of this year. Yeah. So I went to the academy. The academy back then was like 4 weeks. Now it's like 17 weeks, right? Because you went through it, you know.
Yep. Oh yeah, you get. I got through the 4 months.
Yeah, you got a raw deal, man. That was freaking garbage.
You know,
my opinion was garbage. You know,
I'll tell you, it was.
I felt so bad for you, man. You know, it was funny. I was like, I was talking to one of the guys, you know, Chris, at the other day. We were talking, and I told him that you had contacted me, and he was trying to remember who you were, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I remember." He's like, "Dude, that guy got a raw deal." I'm like, "Yeah, he did. He definitely did." You know, but we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have a say in any of that stuff.
Yeah, I know,
So.
and like, I'll tell you, like for me, that it was devastating because
I'm sure.
that was like that was definitely my life like goal and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I like immediately right after I was like, no, like I'm not gonna be destroyed by it. And I started applying to other things, and like I went right back to it.
That's good.
And I didn't really. Well, I guess it was good. It was just one of these like I got right back into it. I like kind of didn't go through like my I guess a grieving process. Like I guess I maybe should have. I don't know. But I was applying to different stuff, and you pass the written test, you pass the physical test, and I'm not the best runner in the world. So that like
Me neither.
I had to really train for that. Like it was
Yeah.
tough for me, and I had to really train for that stuff. So I did that, and you get to the oral interview, and obviously most people are nervous and stuff, but I feel like I'm capable to pass an oral interview.
Right.
And I went to a bunch of them, and then we're gonna pass on you.
Yeah, we're all
It's
set.
And it just made me really. After that, I was kind of, and obviously then I went into construction management, but I was kind of just like, I got kind of really bitter about the process.
It can make you bitter.
And I started. Well, at first I was bitter, and then I just was like, well, wait a minute. Not only I am bitter, it's like the process is ridiculous, but also I'm like. I'm just thinking about it. This is the best way of all the ways that we could come up with law enforcement officers. This is the way they do it. Out of all the ways they could do it, like, is there? And I just started, asking myself questions. Is there any way we could make this more efficient, more productive, more like? I just think there's a better way to do this.
And that being said, the recruitment rate is so way down now because of the public's view on law enforcement because of the media. So. Mm-hmm. It's like we don't have the recruitment rate that we once had in law enforcement. It's so low, and like with us, we're losing people like left and right. Everybody's eligible for retirement now, man. There's like I don't even know how many we've lost in the last couple of months, but we're putting through classes and classes and classes, and we can't even keep up. And then the people that they're hiring, they all have like double master's degrees, they're not gonna stay with us because they're only starting off at like $40-something thousand a year. That's not even going to pay for their student loans. So they're using it as a stepping stone to get to do something else. So it's hard. This job is, it's to me it's like you have to have that mindset where you're not doing it for the money because the money's not that good.
The money's not there.
You're not doing it for the benefits, even though everybody says we have awesome benefits. Like, listen, man, the pros do not outweigh the cons. Trust me when I tell you. When you have to deal with the worst of the worst society has to offer on a daily basis, it is not worth it.
Yeah. I remember in the academy, it was what I kind of expected, but also there were so many surprises too at the same time. When you guys started talking about all these bloodborne diseases and everything, and going through this stuff, and like I would get these shots, and I was like, I didn't realize, like, I thought, in my head, and I think for a lot of people, it's like, we're going to fight the bad guys, it's going to be tons of fun, we're going to go, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. But it's like, oh no, like, if you fight this guy, he could have all these diseases. You don't think like, some of these guys, you don't want to touch them, you don't want to, like, grapple with them. Like, they're like, nope. they have diseases, and you go home, you have family and kids, and, like, it's not what people think it is.
No,
it's
absolutely not. It's like, people think it's like what it's in the movies. You see all this glory and
like these
fun stuff, and part of it is some of that, but part of it is like
they leave out all the bad stuff.
A lot of the bad stuff is just not in there. Mm-hmm. It's just not.
And I'll tell you, the most eye-opening part of the academy for me was when we had attorney Eric Daigle there, and
good guy, smart guy.
Yes,
extremely smart.
His intro to us was, listen, you think, you're at the academy, you think you're here because you're going to get all this training and this and that. Let me tell you the truth. You are here because the state doesn't want to be liable for dumb stuff that you do.
Absolutely.
They just want to have an escape scope so they are not liable for anything you do.
Yeah.
It is not to make you better. It is strictly only to cover their butts.
And then, on the flip side of that, you have those of us there that are actually trying to make you better. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
not a rip on you guys.
No, I absolutely, and I know that. Like, listen, I don't take things to heart. My goal is to make you better, and I'm not trying to prepare you for what you're going to encounter. I'm trying to prepare you for that shock and awe. Like, oh shit, I remember Leenders talking about this. Fuck, what do I do now? I'm not going to be able to prepare you for every situation. There's no fucking way. We would be there. We would be at that academy for 10 years. Easily.
Yeah.
You know, and we still wouldn't cover half the stuff. You know? I can tell you one of the trainees from one of the last classes, first day on the job, she had to cut down a hanger.
Cut down
A hanger. Somebody was hanging.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Oh, wow.
So, like, that's the kind of stuff you're going to see. And, they, you know, we talk about it, and people think that. I think people think, like, yeah, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. And then it's like, oh, shit, they were right. Like, they really were not kidding. But it's a complete reality check. You know, like I said, my academy was 4 weeks. We didn't have FTOs. They threw you into the mix, man. You were lucky if somebody, like, older took you under their wing and showed you the ropes.
I remember talking to an old sheriff back upstate, and he told me that he said the way he started was he, like, I don't know, his parents were friend of the local chief of police or whatever.
So, yeah,
and the guy was like, oh, like, you know, he knew the guy. He was like, oh, so you need a job? Oh, show up to work Monday.
Yep.
Here you go. Here's your badge. Like,
they didn't even have uniforms.
That was, yeah. I mean, maybe not uniform. He was like, oh, here you go. Like, just you show up to work Monday. And I'm just thinking, like, how did we get to there? And I would assume that back then, I mean, I guess I don't really know. I haven't researched it, but I don't really remember there ever being like a crisis of like, oh my god, like these police and this and that. Like, they just hired people that they knew, and it was seemed to be okay. You were in an academy for 4 weeks, which, you know, I don't know what you can learn in 4 weeks like that.
To be honest with you, I don't even remember. I think mine was all on the job training. Like, it was all learned on the job, and luckily I was one of those, you know, didn't mind getting my hands dirty type of people. Where some people are very standoffish and they kind of like, oh shit, I don't really. You know, I mean, I had some other experiences in my life, so, you know, like, if they were like, hey, Jay, we got to go get this guy out of the cell, I'm like, all right, let's go, you know, like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but you tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know, so, you know, I think the guys, like, a lot of the guys that I worked with when I first started were former Hartford police officers, a lot of experience. Worked on a beat, worked in the North End, worked in, you know, detective agency, like all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I was lucky. They took me under their wing and was like, hey, kid, this is what you do, this is what you do. And I kept my mouth shut. I didn't go in there being like, I know this, I know that, or I'm going to do this. And I was just like, what do you guys want me to do?
Yeah.
You know,
so like, not only were you open-minded, but I think you also have, like, the content of character that's required of.
And I was scared out of my fucking mind, to be honest with you. Like, I'm going into a completely different environment than what I'm used to. You know, I'm used to working on cars and nobody's bothering me. I'm in the shop by myself. I get the tunes blasting, you know, like I'm lucky if I hear the phone ring, you know, I'm painting, I'm doing whatever. I'm in my own world. Whereas now I'm going into like a chaos, you know, prisoners are screaming. It's loud. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, dealing with the public, which I didn't have a problem with because I was used to dealing with the public, but you know,
a different kind of.
It's a different kind of. I mean, it's still like you're still like getting an angry fucking customer. You know, like I was in the shop, and you get the angry customer calling you, "Where's my car?" Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You know, I need another day. You know," and you're trying to like calm them down and do that customer service thing. So that aspect actually helped me in this job. You know.
Another beer?
Sure. What do you got? I'll try that. I'll try that IPA.
Stone?
Right there. Yeah, sure. I'll try that. So. You know, I think that kind of helped me. So, you know, I had a little bit of experience there, but you know, nothing prepares you for the chaos that you're gonna, you know, dealing with murder victims, murder suspects, murderers, you know, like gang members, like, you know, oh shit, man.
And like,
what did I get myself into?
So I was thinking. Should have had that thing. Oh, you know, it'll come up fine. That wind thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know some of my audio friends are out there going to be screaming at me again.
Oh, well. They'll get over it.
Yep. But, so what I did, actually kind of recently, because in mid-July, I'm having on, his name's Todd Douglas. He's written a book, and it's funny, I had him on the podcast for my first, like, batch of people that I was doing interviews with. He wrote a book that you would really like, I think, called...
I like books, so...
Yes, it's like an American history book, I would say.
Oh, then I would love it.
But it's like I think you really would. It's called A Republic If You Can Keep It, It's kind of the chronicles of the American counter-revolution.
I'm gonna put that in my notes right now because
he's a New York State Trooper commander, so he's kind of,
Okay.
I think he's in the hierarchy, I would say. He's really solid dude, really solid conservative dude. And yeah, we did a podcast. You can listen to that.
Yeah,
and
definitely listen
we
to
talk
that.
about the book. We talk about American history and the Constitution and
awesome.
a lot of cool stuff.
all my stuff that I'm right. It's right
Yeah.
up my alley.
Yeah, I think you would really like it.
Cool.
And before we did that podcast, we were just talking about like police stuff, and I didn't know this, but he wrote another book called Policing in the 21st Century.
Oh, I've heard of that book. I didn't know.
So,
Yeah, I've heard of that book.
Yep,
Yep.
that's
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess he has a lot of criticisms about how policing is being done right now. And we were just kind of talking, and I was like, well, wow, we've come to a lot of the same conclusions about even like the how the testing that they do and the process for
Yeah.
And I was like,
A lot of it's arbitrary, man. Like, and I have a huge problem with this, even at like where I'm at. Like I'm at the academy, and I have a problem with people setting standards that are arbitrarily set by somebody that probably can't even meet those standards. So, like,
what do you mean, like?
So, I'll just give you a simple example, right? Standard for the day right now, the standard for you to get into this is 10 push-ups. Who set that standard? Probably some idiot that can't even do 10 push-ups. Probably his belly is up over past his, way past his belt line, and he can't even see his freaking toes. But he set the standard. So, why do I have to do it if you can't do it?
Well, I think a lot, and I think you kind of alluded to this before, is that I think policing has become very political.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's not about if you were to really like when you this is what I did actually very recently to kind of prepare for this prepare an interview. I was like, what is the most important thing that a law enforcement officer has to have, like above anything else? First thing that came to my mind was character. Almost everything else doesn't matter. Like, they'll learn on the job. There's no academy that can teach you. I mean, although I do think there are better ways to do it, which I'm going to talk about with Todd. Maybe even we'll do it here.
Sure.
But I mean, that's something you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. You're going to be a good law enforcement officer, or you're going to be subject to corruption of the power of the badge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You either have that content of character, or you don't, and that's something you can't teach.
I agree with that.
And that's how I think back in the day. That's why they were able to get away with, hey, show up to work Monday, because I knew that guy. These guys, they knew, like, they grew up with so and so. If that guy had a kid, you saw that kid grow up. You knew he show up to work Monday.
Right.
You go in 4 weeks. Like, people go. I think the content of character was just, that was what mattered back then, and that's how policing, I think, was successful back then.
Not only that, they were a lot of times, like Hartford PD back in the day, I believe, I mean, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you had to actually live in the city of Hartford. So you were actually a member of that community, right?
I think
so you have a
today.
vested interest in the safety of that community because you live there, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of money. They talk about it now, community policing. That was just policing back then.
Yeah.
There was no community policing. It was just policing. You walk the beat, like my buddy Joe. My buddy Joe, he's 70 in his 70s now. He worked in law enforcement for 40-something years. He was a MP in the service for 3 years. He got out. He became a firefighter for the city of Hartford. It was during when the riots were going on in the 60s. He was like, screw this. If somebody's shooting at me, I'm going to be able to shoot back. So he joined the police force, which was a lateral transfer because he was working already for the city. So he worked there for 3 years as a firefighter, and then he went and worked as a police officer for 20, right? Then he left them and came to us. He was one of my mentors when I came on the job. He kind of took me under his wing, thank God, because he taught me a shitload of stuff, And he's just a very intelligent, smart, like, no-nonsense kind of guy. Tells it like it is. A lot of people don't like him because he'll just tell you. And people don't like to hear the truth. They don't like to hear stuff about themselves. They don't like, they just don't like that.
People are too easily offended these
and
days.
he is just like, I love the guy to death, and we still talk to this day. He's been retired for I don't even know how long now, and, he'll text me every once in a while, hey, how are you, the kids, what's going on, and we bullshit, we'll text for a little bit, and, that's it. And he'll call me every once in a while, ask me how I'm doing, and, you know, we just became really good friends, and there's such a huge age disparity, but it's like he was my partner for a couple of years, and I didn't even worry about it even though he was older. Mm-hmm. Like, we had a prisoner try to escape one time, and that dude was right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tackled the dude out in the lobby, and Joe got knocked on his ass, and I turned around, and he was right next to me after that. I was like, holy shit, where'd you come from? Like, you just got knocked on your ass. I just watched you freaking slide down the wall. Mm-hmm. You know, but it was just that, you know, but for him, he was a beat cop. Mm-hmm. He knew all the store owners. He knew everybody. He knew everybody in his beat. He talked to people, you know. Biggest huge thing for law enforcement nowadays, for me, anyways, my opinion, is lack of communication.
I agree.
People can't even talk to each other.
I agree.
They have no idea how to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. You know? Come over here. Give me your hands. Let me put these handcuffs on you. Do this. Do that. It's like, okay. Like, you talk to your family like that? You talk to your kids like that? You talk to your mom like that? Like, I don't know, man. To me, it's like I've always gotten, you know, and I've dealt with, I don't even know how many count capital felony murder people that are on death row. You know, I was on the Chastity West trial. Mm-hmm. I dealt with Chastity West. She was the first woman on death row. She slit a little boy's neck from ear to ear. Ugh. You know, almost decapitated the kid. Mm-hmm. And, you know, yeah, to me, it's like I always treated people like they were people. Yeah. Like, hey, man, this is what's going to happen. We're going to go upstairs. I got to put cuffs on you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You know, I think people, when they know what's expected of them, they're more apt to, like, agree with you.
I think if you'll treat people as, like, with respect, as human beings, they'll, for the most part, give that back to you.
Yeah,
like, it's
absolutely.
very rare that I think you'll find someone who's just like, you know, F you, but, like, and if you're and I think the thing is genuine people who are like especially some of these, you know, people, these suspects and whatever, they know if you're lying or bullshitting.
Oh yeah, they absolutely know. They know how to read body language better than any of us, because that's all they do.
They're not stupid.
Yeah, that's all they do. They're not stupid, and that's the thing. Like, just because they're criminals, do not hesitate to drop your guard around them, because they probably know how to do more stuff than you. They have more of a survival instinct than most of us. Yeah, you know. Because a lot of them live on the streets.
Just because of their nature, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them live on the streets, so they have to survive. They have to, where am I going to get my food? Where am I going to get this? Where am I going to get that? Where am I going to sleep tonight? You know, whereas us, like, I can, on the way home from work, I can stop at the grocery store, grab whatever I need, come home, cook it. Fucking, I got a house to live in, you know?
Yeah, they're hustlers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, and those people are dangerous. They're dangerous, man, because they have that, you know, my dad always called it Yankee ingenuity. They have that Yankee ingenuity, man. Yeah. They just know they can build stuff, they can make stuff, they can just completely survive without hardly anything. And, you know, if the apocalypse happens, those are the people that are going to be around.
Really, yeah.
You know?
Realistically, yeah, which also
a lot of us are going to be like, fuck, what do I do, man? I don't know how to fix a generator. I don't know, you know, like, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, and these guys, they probably never look at a generator, but they'll fix it.
They'll figure it out. Yep, 100%.
It's incredible, yeah. And yeah, I mean, like you were saying, like, I mean, just the content of character is, I think, what matters the most. Yeah. That is what is going to not only help you out, but, like, also help the perception of things. Like, if you, and that's why, I mean, I have people telling me my entire life, oh my God, you'd be the best cop ever, blah, blah, because I will just go and I'll talk to you. It's kind of my passion. That's why I'm doing the podcast. I genuinely like.
This is a perfect venue for you, man. It really is.
I genuinely like, because I think, like, you look at, like, what Joe Rogan does, and, like, he interviews, like, these professionals in these fields, and he's at that point where he's, you know, interviewing people, and I'm like, that's for me, that's every person. We could walk around here, just find one person an old guy walking down the road. I bet if you sit him down, he has got some incredible life story.
Oh, absolutely.
With incredible struggles and triumphs and failures, and, like, you know, you could write a novel about his life, and it would be epic and incredible and amazing. And that's every person. But it's up to the interviewer to draw that out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to know something amazing? There was this guy when I lived in Granby. So there was this guy. I used to go to the McDonald's in the morning, grab a coffee or whatever, and there was this guy that was always there. He had this car that was in completely disarray. It had, like, I don't know, 10,000 magazines, newspapers, and it was, like, stockpiled with stuff. It looked like the biggest dilapidated piece of shit. You know, this guy had a big beard. You know, he always wore this, like, he had a World War II hat on, you know. all this stuff. So every morning I'd come in, I would see him. Hey, good morning, how you doing? Good, you know. And then there was a couple of Korean vets that used to sit over here, older guys, you know. Used to go and get my coffee. I'd say hi to them in the morning, you know, get my coffee, leave. You know. One day I went in there, I didn't have to work for some reason. I needed to take the day off or whatever, and I walked in there and I just started bullshitting with him. Come to find out, not only was this dude like a forward observer on an island somewhere in World War II, like all by himself, you know, like he did that. He flew planes. He was in Vietnam and flew planes. Like he did all this shit. He was a teacher. I found out like later on, like super intelligent guy. But I'd have never known that if I didn't take 2 seconds out of my time to like just be like, hey, what's up? How you doing today? You know, like just to shoot the shit with him for a couple of seconds. And you know, I thought he was a bum. I thought he lived in his car, you know, but he didn't. You know, he had all these life experiences that I'd have never known. It's crazy.
And that's what I've learned with just talking with people, and that's why I guess that's why I really like doing the podcast so much, is that I love, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of unique people in my life, and that's, you know.
And then surround yourself with, you know, you surround yourself, especially in the jiu-jitsu community, you know, there's so many diverse people, so many diverse personalities.
Oh, yeah, in different
but
fields.
you come together for
life.
this one common thing that you like, and, you know, you make, you know, I call it networking. You make tons of network, you know, people.
Oh, yeah.
And then you learn. Now you start, and then you, as you become friends, you start to learn all these little nuances of people, like what they've done in the past, what they do now, you know, how they look at life, how they think of things, and you're just like, wow, man, I never even really thought of that. And it just kind of like, it transforms you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think as human beings, to get super deep, super philosophical, you know, we're built for not only to be social, but I think to have deep personal relationships with people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And for better or for worse, I'm kind of that person where I can have like superficial relationships, and we can just have, you know, we can have the bro time and just only fun stuff. But like, I will always try to get to that deep. Like, I want to know, like, you know, your philosophy on things, your outlook on things. You know, whether it's jiu-jitsu or policing or like life, like, you know, like that interests me. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it in a lot of ways it provides value for my life and it, you know, for my perspective, and it broadens.
And it gives you it gives you a different perspective on things. So you just like, you think of things, and you're like, well, like today we were just simple jiu-jitsu stuff. You're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. You know, it just gives you, and maybe you use it, maybe you don't, but at least you have that in the back of your mind now to be like, maybe there's something to this. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's not, but can I use it? Can I use a piece of it?
Yeah. Can I apply it to,
you
know, like, I mean, you know, like going back to the concept, like just that one basic in the guard thing, to go back to that. I'm immediately when I
feels wrong.
Yeah, when I said it feels wrong, but you're telling me, no, this is it. So now in my mind, I'm like, wait, this is the position. And I go, I wonder how I would apply this if I were doing like a triangle from bottom. Like, you know, what would the nuances be behind that? And it's got me thinking. I have no idea what that would look like or what it would be, but I'm thinking, like, I bet there's a way I can apply these principles to that position. Or maybe, you know, an ashigarami kind of, you know, whatever. Like, now I'm thinking in my head, that principle there can be applied to every single position in jiu-jitsu. But I have no idea how to do it.
And that's the thing, like, how I try to approach teaching in general is just very principle-based, you know? Like, there's 10 billion techniques out there. Yeah. I don't know them all. There's no way I'd be able to apply them all. You know, like, there's no way that I can wrap my pea brain around all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I just can't, you know? And I hate to say can't, but it's just like, so my thing is like, what's the principle behind it? Okay? Mm-hmm. How can I use this in a myriad of different places as opposed to just having it in a box, you know? So that's kind of how I approach it. And that's kind of just how I approach life in general. Like, how can I apply this, like jiu-jitsu, right? How can I apply this to my everyday life? It helps me solve problems, you know? Do I get all anxiety-ridden because there's a little problem ahead of me? No. All right, I know there's a way around the problem. I know there's a way to figure out that Rubik's Cube of life, you know? And it's all because of this shit that I do, you know? And it's helped me. You know, whereas in the past I would get, you know, get the stomach butterflies. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. Stress. You know, I'm having financial problems. I'm having this. I'm having that. Whatever, relationship problems, whatever it is. And now it's just like, all right, yeah, there's a problem here. I get a little anxiety because of it, but I know we can solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way to solve it, you know? Or there's a way to figure it out so that it's going to help me, you know? So it has way more benefits than just arm locking somebody, triangling somebody, you know, choking somebody out.
Definitely.
It's like a whole life-changing type of thing, you know? And I think martial arts in general is like that.
Yes.
You just have to understand the key principles of it and be able to apply them to your everyday outlook, you know?
Oh, yeah.
What you're doing.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree 100%. I think everyone who like has been training for a long time agrees that like the philosophies and the principles behind jiu-jitsu you can apply them to your life, like in your everyday life, and I think you know, it brings down your stress. It definitely, like, it, you know, just like you're saying, problem solving, you know, and like, and in the scope of things, it's like, oh, you know, you have some problem at work or something, some like work problem or something. It's like, in the larger scope of life, it's like, this is not even a problem.
It's
like,
nothing.
if you want to think about real problems, like, I mean, this, you know, this is kind of another topic we can get into, which would be really fun, is, like, you know, think of like America as it stands right now. Like, we have electricity, we have refrigeration, we have all these, oh God, I don't know, it's things that I think we take for granted to some degree. And just imagine, I mean, just when the power goes out,
Panic.
Imagine if it never came back on.
People panic, man.
Like,
just when it goes out for like 3 hours, people panic.
You know, I don't know, for better or for worse, I think, like, I have these little thought exercises, like, what if electricity is gone? Like, what if, like, the generator, like, if they're just gone? Like, what do I do then? And
you have to learn to improvise.
And it's like, holy crap. And then you think, oh, this is actually some parts of the world. Like, some parts of the world don't have, like, electricity.
They don't have refrigeration. They don't have electricity. They don't have
cars. They don't
even have viable drinking water.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, it humbles me, and it's like, oh my God, I could have been born anywhere in the world. Thank God I was born in America at this time in 2019.
Why do you think people from other countries are trying to come here?
I can only imagine.
Because they don't have, or they can't get, or they, you know, like, they know their life is going to benefit in some way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason, you know? There's a reason. That, you know, there's a reason why way back in the day, my great-grandparents came here from where they came from. You know, they got to Ellis Island, got their names changed, you know, signed some paperwork, and you're on your way, kid. You know, there's a reason why they come here. There's a reason why they're still coming here. Yep. It's not, you know, people. I've been to other countries. People talk shit about us. They can talk shit all they want.
Yeah.
But you still have people from your country that lived there that are still trying to come here and benefit their life in some way. So how bad can it be?
I mean, I don't see people clamoring, begging to get into Venezuela right now. I don't see people...
Dominican Republic, right? Who's ready to go on vacation in the Dominican Republic? People are dying and disappearing like left and right.
Yeah, who wants to go to North or South Africa or the Middle East or, I mean...
I don't even want to go there on vacation. I'm good.
I mean, that's why people like, you know, among my friend group, and even my wife, like, they're like, oh, I want to go see Europe and this and that. I'm like, I want to see Texas. I want to see Montana. I want to see Washington State. I want to see Alaska. Like,
this country isn't even that old. I mean, if you want to talk about that, I mean, we can get really deep in that, but you want to talk about the country really not that old, you know, but there's still a lot of shit to see here. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean...
You know? Yeah. We have some really, really cool stuff in this country. Listen, I've been to England. Wasn't impressed. You know, I liked it. But I just wasn't impressed. I was in Italy before that. Maybe that's why. We went to Italy, and I was like, man, this place is awesome. You can stand on a corner in Italy. There's a wall. You can stand on a corner. And on this side of the corner, you can see the freaking, you know... Coliseum, all these ruins and everything. Nice. And then you look down this street over here and it's all graffiti written walls. It looks like shit and you're just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is all like, this stuff's thousands of years old and this looks like shit, you know? And there's like all this, you know, it's just crazy. And then, you know, you go to England and England's cool. It's old, you know, they got there's a lot of history there, but I don't know. Maybe the people just don't like Americans that well. I don't understand it myself, but whatever. You know, there's a lot of when I finally got to England and you're gonna listen to the news, it was like George Bush was the president at the time, and it was like a lot of bashing Bush and whatever, man. You know, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking a different language. So twice, but
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
Oh yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, and
I don't know. And then, you know, like you go to some parts of France, they're very rude and they're like that. And then you go to other parts of France, like my buddy Sean is, he's not that far from, like Normandy and all that kind of stuff. And, I guess the people are really nice there. You know, they love Americans because they remember, like, you know, or they, you know, their family remembers. So, I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, I think, obviously, we're all humans in general anyway. We all have, good things about us, bad things about us, culturally speaking, whatever. You know, we're all imperfect to some degree or the other. But I always think that what made America different than the rest of the world is that we were a country based on ideas. It wasn't about, a nation, a race, or any. It was none of that. It was about ideas.
And all those ideas, not to cut you off, but all those ideas were based off of other ideas from history.
Yeah, it was a really unique collection of ideas that came from philosophers, that came from these other philosophers, which came from biblical interpretations. There's a whole chain that I think I've discussed it with a couple people in the past, but yeah, it's just like you have like basically, and we could start with the Enlightenment, even though there's the Enlightenment wasn't just Enlightenment out of nowhere. The Enlightenment was an accumulation of kind of reason plus religion, Christian religion. And then you have the Enlightenment as we understand it, and then we have the West, basically, which is what we are today. And it's all idea-based. It's all strictly just good ideas.
It's all theory. Like, everything's based on theory, Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But I think the people that were involved in setting up what we know as this country now, it put a lot of thought and a lot of and a lot of them, they went into fucking complete ruin to do it. Some of them were very well off and they lost everything to get us to where we are today. And now what are we doing? We're trying to go in the fucking reverse. It's like, it's crazy to me.
I mean,
and I think it's because a lot of this shit isn't even being taught in class. It's not being taught in school anymore. So kids have no idea like what this country has become, where it came from, how it started, like what they don't have no background. There's no principle behind that. They don't get it.
Fun exercise I like to do with people is I like to ask them, what are the 5 rights granted to you in the First Amendment? And you would be amazed at how many people cannot answer that question.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is like, and I say this all the time, so this is one of my things, like, when we talk about the Second Amendment, so I'm a big, Second Amendment, whatever, First Amendment, any kind of amendment, right, to be honest with you.
You're a freedom guy.
I'm definitely a freedom guy. But my thing is I say to people all the time, because they'll say, everybody will go back to, like, the Second Amendment when we start talking about firearms and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, let me ask you this. What piece of paper in the world actually gives you any right at all, period? There is none. You're born with the right to defend yourself. Who is it anybody's business to tell you how and when or where you can do that? Shouldn't be any, right? Somebody comes at me with an axe and I have something better, then I should be able to use that. Now, if all I have is a wrench, then hopefully I know how to use that thing, right? But why do we have this stuff that actually has to be written down somewhere to tell somebody, like, you have the right to defend yourself, and this is how you can do it?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting way to think about it. I never thought about it like that.
It just doesn't make any sense to me because
it should be self-evident.
It should be, but there's people out there like they even do what we do that are very, I guess, liberal-esque in their thinking. I don't like put labels on a lot of things, but they're very liberal-esque in their thinking and how they think, and they're like, well, you shouldn't be allowed to own an AR-15. I'm like, why not? I should be allowed to own a fucking tank if I want to.
Well, even right there, I mean,
if I can afford a tank, Shit, I should be able to go out and buy one.
Well, then they would say, to play devil's advocate, well, what if you wanted to buy a nuclear warhead? Should be allowed to buy
if I can afford that shit, why not? Right?
I mean,
I'm not going to be able to, and I don't know anybody that can.
Well,
right?
If the argument was, well, if so that's interesting, because that, I mean, I guess for me, I don't know if I would want everyone owning or being able to own a nuclear warhead.
But here's the reality of it. Everybody would not be able to. You would not be able to afford. Not everybody would be able to afford a nuclear weapon.
Capitalism would find a way.
And you've had dictators. You've had dictators that have had the capabilities of doing some of this stuff, and did they do it? No, because they're too afraid of the ramifications of what would happen. Right?
Well, for people that own guns or warheads or
warheads, guns, whatever you want to call it. You know, missiles, whatever. You know, why don't people attack certain people? Because they're afraid of what's going to happen if they do.
Yeah.
There's going to be some kind of retaliation, and if this one's not confident in, like, you know, the abilities to circum the other one, then oh shit, you know, if we do this, they're going to counter with that, and then it's going to be, you know, now it's going to be either on full out war or, you know, but the thing is we don't learn anything from history.
Yeah,
we should. We don't.
It's,
you know,
I think that there are definitely some basic principles in life where it's like you were saying, people. I mean, it's almost like basic bully psychology. And this is kind of foreign policy-esque discussion here, but like the bully isn't going to go fight the wrestling state champ. He's going to go fight a person he knows he can.
Oh, absolutely.
Beat up. So, but
and then he's going to test it first.
Yeah.
He's not just going to go in and fight. He's going to test it first. He's going to test the waters to see how far he can go.
Yeah. Now, even unless let's say they're just ideologically driven, and they like, even if we lose, we're going to attack you anyway. Well, all right. Well, then let that play out.
Right.
Like, let the bully who's ideologically driven. I'm just going to fight people because that's just who I am as a person. Let him go fight the New York State champ, and it's not going to be pretty, and the results will be the results. But I think a bigger question, you know, here. And this is what drives me nuts, is that even, like, you know, like you were saying, oh, like, some person's like, well, why do you need an AR-15? Oh, you shouldn't be able to have that. My question is, whoa, who are you to tell me what to do, what I can and cannot buy? If I find another dude who's like, hey, I make AR-15s, why should you tell me and him that we can't engage in just commerce?
Right.
Where do you get that authority?
Yeah,
that's the real conversation.
I don't understand that idea. I don't understand that at all. It just doesn't, I mean, and it's not just because, like, I'm a gun guy, and, like, my thing is like, listen, if you're proficient with a fucking hammer, and that's what you want to carry in your fucking pants pocket, rock on. You know, I who am I to tell you, dude, you shouldn't be carrying a fucking hammer in your pocket?
Well,
I'm nobody.
What's funny is that in England, so obviously when they banned guns, people were saying as a joke, they were like, oh, well, you know, knives are going to be your next big problem. And
you know, what's the problem?
But it's the argument, like, literally, we were saying this years ago. I remember reading like these things, and they were like, oh, what are you going to do? Have knife control, this and that? They are talking about like knife control, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, and this has been always my argument, is that you can ban guns, you can ban whatever you want, whatever weapon you want. The problem is not the weapon. The problem is the evil in the human heart.
Oh, absolutely.
So unless you could find a way to get rid of that, which you can't, then what are you doing? All you're doing is, well, and at first I'd say, listen, all you're doing is you're accepting a lower body count. You're saying, we don't want 10 people to get killed, we just want like 3 people to get killed. We're okay with that, which I'm not really okay with that. But even then I go, well, wait a minute, just because you ban guns, maybe the guy who was going to shoot up a school or something, maybe he'll kill, you know, let's say 30 people. What if that dude, he can't get a gun, so he goes, oh, I'll just hijack a bus, and now I'm going to slaughter 200 people just down a sidewalk on a busy day. Maybe I'll just figure out how to make a bomb. And,
if there's
whatever.
means, there's a way.
Yeah.
So if somebody is if somebody is hell-bent on hurting you, good luck stopping them.
Yeah, exactly. And that, so the problem is not the gun, it's not weapons, it's not any of this
people.
Stuff. It's the human heart, and it's like, what drove that person to do that? That is the real question.
Right.
What makes a person
look at that?
commit themselves to that?
I just posted something the other day on Facebook about the I forgot his name, but the dude that armored his bulldozer. you know, and went on a rampage, like destroying all the businesses
I
around.
haven't heard about that. Holy crap.
Oh my god, it happened like years ago. So like in the 90s or something. So this guy had a business, had like a muffler business or something like that. It was like a mechanic's business. And across the street, they were building something, and they blocked the access for his business so that the town was doing it. Like the town or the city was blocking his access so that people couldn't get to his business anymore. And he petitioned, and they just denied it. And they built this huge freaking monstrosity business across the street from him, completely shut him out. So now he couldn't get the business that he needed. And so he was like, fuck, what do I do now? So he built this freaking killdozer. He built this bulldozer. Like, he spent a year doing it, reinforced it with armor and all his stuff so that nobody could, you know. And he went and destroyed all the businesses that they built up around him. He went, drove through all their freaking buildings and killed himself in the damn bulldozer. Ended up killing himself.
Wow.
So it's like, when you push somebody to the point where they're just like, yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah. How are you going to stop that?
And it's like, you got to think, so for that process, you have this guy, totally normal guy, by all measures, like at that time. Might have been a little weird, whatever. Probably was a little weird. But he wasn't doing anything bad. He was like, listen, like it just
straight up like, legit business owner.
To me, here I'm sitting here and like I'm you know, on a political board, and this guy's like, listen, like if you can just like, you're blocking my business, I'm not going to be able to conduct myself properly. Like I'm going to lose money. I'm not going to be able to afford my family, my kids. Like what? Like it's going to cause me a lot of problems. If we can do this and this, or maybe we can, you know, can we?
And that's what he did too.
Yeah, and the guys, as a human, just be like, no, we're doing this instead. Like I don't give a shit about what happens to you.
Probably because the business across the street shelled a lot of money.
Whatever the reason,
right?
Whatever the reason is, who knows? But like, just at that human level, like for them not to be like, oh, no, you're right. You know what? Yeah, and that would put you in a really bad position. Let's figure something out. Totally avoidable, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you know, it's just,
to me, the confrontation is always avoidable. It's whether or not, you know, you have the person
who can conduct themselves properly to,
absolutely,
to not have an ego, to be a human.
I don't know how many times I've like gone into, you know, a cell or had to go get somebody and they were just fucking irate, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm gonna come back when you, you know, it's like, I teach this all the time. You ever told somebody to calm down and have it work?
No.
Right? Relax. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. Even if you mean it. Like, even if you're like truly genuine, be like, hey man, just please calm down.
Yeah.
That just fucking amps people up.
Yeah.
So like, listen, man, you know what? I understand you're upset. I don't know why you're upset. If you want to talk to me about it, that's cool. But if not, you know, I'm gonna come back in like 10 minutes. You know? And then we'll talk a little bit more and see what happens. You know? I didn't tell him to calm down. I didn't tell him to relax. I didn't tell him I was going to do anything. I didn't tell him, like, listen, if you don't calm down, I'll come in there and fucking whip your ass. I didn't do any of that. I gave him, and then I like to give people options. Like, hey, man, well, like, what do you think would resolve this situation right now? What would, and they give me, maybe they'll give me some, all right, cool, I can't really do that right now. That's not something I can do, you know, like, my boss won't let me, I'll get fired. Like, I don't want to get fired. Like, I've been doing this a while, you know. But, hey, how about this? You know? And then put the ball back in their court. And then give them a couple of options to do, you know, and let them pick, because ultimately what they're doing is they're choosing. And now that puts the power in their court. So now they feel like they're empowered. Even though
you're getting what you want.
You gave them a couple of options. They're actually your options, yes, but they're getting to pick. You know, so it almost feels like they're empowered.
Well, this is what I've always said for a long time now. I said, you know, one of you're familiar with Jordan Peterson?
Oh yeah, God yeah.
So one of his rules is
I have his book.
Yeah,
I haven't read the whole thing yet, but
I got the audiobook, so I find audiobooks are easier for me.
Yeah, probably.
But I've gone through it a couple times, and one of the rules is be specific or be precise in your speech.
Right.
And I've been, you know, not that I'm Jordan Peterson, but like going through the book, I'm reading it, and I'm like, wow, we came to a lot of the same conclusions. I mean, he has defined it and you know, expanded on it more than
He's able to articulate it really well.
Yeah, so I am in no way comparing myself to him, but we can't we came to a lot of the same conclusions in different ways.
Yep.
Obviously I think his ways are better, but like that's one that I've always, he would say be precise in your speech. I've always said it a little differently. I would say you have the entire human language at your disposal. you need only what should dictate what you say in something, especially with something like that. It's like, what is the objective I want to achieve?
Right.
I want to get this guy out of the cell up to where he's got to go, and I don't want him to be mad.
Right.
What words can I pick and choose out of this voluminous, almost infinite amount of words? What can I pick and choose to achieve that?
Right.
And
words are so powerful, but in the same time they mean nothing. You know, like people put a lot of stock in words. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you said this. Like, well, that's not how I meant it, you know? It's the context behind the meaning of the word, you know, and how you said it. And there's a lot with the tone and inflection in your voice and how you say it.
And just your energy, too.
And, yeah, absolutely. Your mannerisms, body language. There's so much involved in that, you know? But words in and of themselves, meaningless. But everybody puts a lot of stock in words, you know? So it's like, well, you said this. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't mean it like that. But you said it. Mm-hmm. I understand I said that, and I'm, you know, I apologize for saying it. Maybe it was the way I said it.
Let me clarify what I meant.
Right. So,
you know.
But, you know, people, I mean, and think about how much words have changed over the centuries. Mm-hmm. You know? Specific meanings of words has changed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, so what do they mean? Nothing. But when people can just change them, they don't mean anything, as far as I'm concerned. You know, but I understand that they have meaning, but at the same time, to me, it's like, eh.
Well, it's like words are like, you know, and I guess this is what Jordan Peterson would say, is that, you know, words are like tools. Mm-hmm. You know, if I want to convey to you, like, listen, hey, I care about you. You know, we have to work together to achieve this one kind of goal, like getting up to the courtroom or whatever it is. You know, and I don't want you to be pissed off. I'm not here to be a dick to you or anything. Right. You know, what can I say to convey that to you? Right. And words are just your tools to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it can be argumentative. It could ramp people up, or it could be soothing. You know, I called somebody the other day. I was like a customer service thing. And the lady answered the phone, and I was like, hey, you know, good morning. How are you doing? My name's Jason. You know, how you doing today? And it was a long pause. And she was like, I'm good. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. I'm like, listen, this is the problem I'm having. And then I explained to her whatever the problem was. And, but just like the way she went out of her way to help me after that.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was crazy because, like, I didn't say, hey, I'm having this problem. I didn't just, like, bombard her with stuff. I asked her, and I truly was concerned, like, how was she doing today, you know? Like, maybe she came in and, you know, like, had a shitty day, you know? But the pause said it all. Like, the pause said everything to me because I knew she was processing what I just said.
No one has done that with her.
Nobody calls me and ever asks me how my day is. They always call me and just complain about stupid shit that they have going on in their lives, and nobody really, truly, even if they don't care.
About her.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just little things like that where you can get a ton of stuff that you actually are looking to achieve, and it takes very little effort.
Yeah,
I think nobody wants to put the effort in.
You know, I get the vibe that you're a lot like me. We're like, you actually give a crap about people.
I do.
Like, you genuinely do. I'm the same exact way. We're like, you know, there's a funny story I've told in the past where we were having something delivered to the house, like some kind of. There's an app called, I think, Drizzle, I think it's called.
No, I never heard of it.
You can have.
There's like a million apps out there.
You can have liquor delivered to your house.
That's cool.
You can like just search where it is, and they'll deliver it to you. So I was like, oh, we'll try it out. I tried it. You know, I don't use it as much. Well, we did it. I think we did it like twice because, you know, it was cool. It was fun. And I remember, you know, it said, oh, it'll be delivered by 2 o'clock. So 2 o'clock comes around. I go, oh, they're not here. You know? So I call. They were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, blah blah blah. Like, and I was like, oh no, that's fine. Like, because I always think, how would I want to be treated in their situation?
Exactly.
Because, like, I mean, mistakes happen. I'm not perfect. I screw stuff up. I'm an idiot sometimes.
I screw up shit all the
time.
So.
And it's like, I want people to not be super mad at me. So I'm in the opposite position. And I go, oh no, hey, it's fine, totally fine. Like, I'll just hang out, whatever. You know, they came like 3 hours later. The guy got to the door. The guy, you could tell he was like ready to be. Like,
confronted.
He was ready to just take like a beating. It looked like it's like Jesus, he was ready, and so like,
poor
you know, he's like, I opened the door. He goes, oh my God, like, you know, I'm just, oh hey, how? Before I could finish it, we're so sorry. So he went on and on and on, and I go, hey, it's fine. Yeah. And he was like, he, like you said, like there was this pause, like he was waiting to be like berated by me.
Yeah.
And I just was, and then he didn't say a word, and I go, listen, because then I saw what was going on, and I go, listen, I totally understand, like stuff happens, stuff happens in my life, like you're probably, and I just kind of went through it, like you're probably expecting me to be berated right now. I'm sure it happens to you all the time, but I'm not going to do that to you because I totally understand what's going on. Like you're a human being, stuff happens. It's not even in your control. You didn't want this to happen. You didn't make this happen. This stuff happens. Like just have a good day. Like I hope you get home safe. Like I know it's trafficy. Like just have a good day. The guy
just deflated.
You could just see in his eyes like he was really taken aback by it, and it's like that.
It's unexpected.
That to me is, that changes me a little bit. That to see like the not that I just water up or anything, but like you could see like he had this gliss in his face, like oh my god, like it affected him.
Of course,
and
it probably made his day. You don't even know. You know,
and I think I don't know. Maybe who knows? I mean,
until the next guy he gets to, and the guy
true.
hammers him for some stupid reason.
I mean, but
people are angry, man. I don't know. Maybe it's jiu-jitsu, but I don't really get upset about too much. You know?
I know. Yeah, I'm the same way. I actually was just having my wife yesterday. We have a tradition. We call it Friday night flights. Which, if anyone out there, I highly recommend it. Just Friday night, once a week, you just go out to a brewery, just do the flights, do samples and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Oh my god,
I like it.
It is so much fun.
That's nice.
It's the best. I highly recommend.
My girlfriend now is not a beer drinker, so we'd have to do wine. Something,
okay, well that's fine.
That's cool.
Too.
Like I'm not a huge wine guy, but
what about ciders? Does she like ciders?
I don't know. I'm not even sure if she's ever really tried them, but I know she's not like a beer person. But it's fine. Like I'm not a super beer person, but I'll go out and try different stuff. See if I like it. Because obviously you don't know until you try it. I mean, I try to get my kids to try different stuff. That's like pulling teeth. But my daughter's pretty good. But my son, he's actually getting better. He's been trying new stuff, so that's good. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And just we were saying yesterday that I'm sitting there and I'm like, why do people get offended? Like, I'm thinking about when was the last time I got offended?
Insecurities.
Well, like, I'm just thinking about it generally. Like, when was I ever offended? Like, I'm a conservative white male. I'm arguably one of the most hated people in America right now. And I'm like, if I go online, I'm routinely called this and that, and like the worst things in the world. None of it's true. But it's like, I'm never like, oh my god, you offended me. I need, the government or the police to come in and save me and this and that. It doesn't.
It's funny you say that because I just, it was on a jiu-jitsu Facebook page. I can't remember the exact jiu-jitsu page, but they posted something about, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They posted something about the lockdown, and I guess an instructor, this kid did the lockdown on the instructor, and the instructor just like I don't know if he hurt him or whatever, like did something, and I just wrote like something simple, like I'm not a big proponent of the lockdown because I think about jiu-jitsu as a fight.
Oh, like the lockdown from bottom half.
Yeah,
okay,
the lockdown.
Okay.
So I think jiu-jitsu is a fight, and I don't want to be locked into somebody when they can pound my face in, So I try to take a very practical and simplistic approach to what it is we do, and I think of it as a fight because it is a fight. I mean, it was designed for fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
for MMA.
It's way far. If you look into the history of it, it's way far beyond MMA, the Gracies. Like it goes way back to the samurai. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Grappling?
Oh yeah. It was their unarmed form of combat. They were wearing armor. They couldn't punch and kick each other. So if they lost their sword or they lost their spear, they lost their bow and arrow in combat, how else are they going to defend themselves? They flipped each other, did throws, and they did joint locks and chokes and that kind of shit.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Really?
It's way older. I mean, Jiu-jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-jitsu doesn't come from judo. It comes from Japanese Jiu-jitsu. It's like
my
Japanese judo comes from Jiu-jitsu. Kano just was like he took a lot of the harshness, that gentle art. He took a lot of the harshness out of it, and because at the time Japan was becoming very civilized.
Yeah, they were going through the Meiji Restoration.
They were becoming very civilized, and the type of jiu-jitsu with the joint locks and chokes and all this crazy, like they call it Newaza or whatever, all that stuff he was just like, this is too brutal, So we're gonna make this a little bit, like, fluff it up a little bit. So then, of course, it became a sport, right? And then, obviously, there was people that still did the Nuwaza part. They went all through Europe practicing it. That's where the guard got developed, a lot of it. They brought it here way before the Gracies even were here. It was brought here way before that.
You know a lot of history about this.
Yeah, I read a lot. I read a lot.
Wow.
It was actually taught in our military academies way before the Gracies brought it here, like way back in the early 1900s. And then they brought it down to Brazil, where the Gracies learned it, and then the Gracies brought it here like in the 70s.
So, but it was already here, you're saying?
It was here, but it wasn't. It didn't take favor because it wasn't very manly the way to fight like that. Manly was to put your dukes up like this, and we're gonna duke it out.
Photo of the guy with the mustache.
Yep, we're gonna fight like this. Who can take the brunt the most, right? We're gonna punch each other in the face till somebody falls down.
Well,
there wasn't a lot of movement involved in boxing until what? Till Muhammad Ali came along, and he started dancing around and moving around and doing all this stuff that nobody did before him, right? Doing all this crazy head weaving, bobbing, moving, footwork. Nobody did that stuff. They used to stand in front of each other and punch each other in the face until somebody fell down. That's what fighting was.
That's so. You think about how they used to fight in like for warfare. It was you just stand in field and shoot each other.
Yeah,
Before there was guerrilla warfare, quote unquote.
But I mean, where do we learn the guerrilla warfare? From the fucking Indians, right? French and Indian Wars, where we learned it.
Like the tactical,
all the tactical stuff, hiding in the woods, hiding behind stone walls. Like they started using it in the Civil War because we learned it from. We knew we had a lot of success with it in the Revolutionary War. They had a lot of success. We'd be fucking speaking with a British accent if we didn't use a lot of that shit. We really would. And then the French came and helped us out, but like. We held our own because of that. We held our own because we were hiding in the woods. We were hiding in trees. We were hiding in the wood line. We weren't going out. We didn't have the firepower that they had. Yeah. We couldn't stand in a line with people and fucking duke it out. The rebels or whatever you wanted to call them. They are the ones that let us hold our own until the French came in here and bailed us out. They brought more troops, ships, and saved our ass. But before that, I mean, we held our own by hiding in the wood lines and using like sniper type of stuff and guerrilla warfare.
And that makes sense.
Ambushing people.
Yeah, because that's how the Indians were hunting, and that's how
exactly how they did it.
And oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You were saying before how all the great philosophers were grapplers, and all the grapplers were these great philosophers, and you mentioned Socrates, and Socrates is one.
Yeah.
Name some other for us famous philosophers.
Oh God, I'm having a brain fart.
All I'm thinking when I think of great philosophers, I think of Aristotle,
Plato. He was a grappler. Aristotle was
John Locke, Nietzsche.
I don't know if Nietzsche was, but I know. I don't think Nietzsche was, but Plato, Socrates, all those guys. They were all because a lot of them learned from each other, and they were all grapplers. You can look it up. I mean, you can look it up.
I am definitely going to because that is wild to me. Like wrestling, like Greco-Roman wrestling, probably. Something.
Yeah, they were grappling. I mean, grappling. Period. I mean, think about it. Think about where did the Greek games come from? It was all grappling. A lot of it. That's how it started. With two guys and you see them. It's like the Gable grip, right? Talk about the Gable grip. Dan Gable, he didn't invent that shit. Go to Greece and look at some statue. Somebody's doing a Gable grip. That freaking statue's thousands of years old. They were doing that stuff, and they just gave it a name. A lot of the stuff that they give names to, I mean, it's been around forever. I guess I'm kind of old school. I don't really give them it's a choke, it's an arm lock, it's a leg lock, But I mean, we give it names to so I can call you and be like, hey, I was in the 50-50 guard and I did the,
So I know what you
so you have an idea. If I said, I was in the leg lace or something like that, you know what I'm talking about. Because our communication's a lot broader now. But I mean, you look at some of these older school guys. I mean, it's just a joke. It's it doesn't really have a name to it.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge, and I'm not an expert or anything like that, by no means in anything. I like to say that I know a lot about the little things and a little about a lot of things. I just like to read a lot, and then, you know, but I don't put a lot of stock in what's read. It's still written by some person. It could be a complete crazy person that was a freaking psycho. Or
You have to have a filter.
I mean,
you know?
fuck, Hitler read a book that was like a fucking world-class seller, you know? That guy was a complete fucking nut. So, you know, you can't put a lot of stock into the written word, but I like to read to try to educate myself and use that to, like, do I think this is a bunch of bullshit, or is there some, you
Or
know?
like pick, you know, what is useful.
But if you
what
want,
is it,
if
know?
you want to read a good book, it's called With Your Back on the Ground, and it talks about jiu-jitsu and where it came from, Maeda and all that, and how it came to the United States way before the Gracies brought it here, and how he brought it to Brazil and taught the Gracie. Like, it goes through all that, and it's all documented stuff. Like, them going throughout Europe and doing challenging matches. Like, everybody thinks it originated with the Gracies, but it didn't. It started way before that, like back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they were doing stuff in Europe, and then it moved here, and they were doing it here, and you know, I think it was President Roosevelt saw the effectiveness of it. He
had fights at the White House, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know,
I know about that. I don't remember anything other than that. I remember he had fights.
So, but then he started having them teach it. They were actually teaching it to the military academies because he saw how effective it was.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, it's a lot of, like I said, a lot of the stuff that, like the leg lock thing, everybody thinks it's like new. Man, the whole Gracie Academy back in the day got decimated by a leg lock game. Way back in the day.
I've heard that from someone. I gotta remember who was telling me that.
Elio was pissed because then they started calling it like the, you know, it was like the poor man's move and all this other stuff.
Yeah, there was a campaign to make it look like it was bad. Like
and it's because his whole team got wiped out with leg locks. Like, everybody got submitted because they didn't know anything about them. They didn't train them.
Were it like the Russian Sambo guys? Was it those
no,
guys,
it was another. It was another jiu-jitsu school because I think I'd have to read it again because it's been so long since I've read up about a lot of this stuff. I believe it was like his brother George or something was training with other people, and Maeda was obviously, him and his cronies or whatever were training other people throughout Brazil. It wasn't just the Gracies. They made it popular. They made it popular with their teaching style. I don't think there's anybody that teaches this stuff better than them.
Yeah, the Gracies did a really good job of commercializing and like
not only that, but they have a really unique way on how they teach this art, and it is a very, very good. Rorion Gracie is an extremely intelligent person. He's a lawyer by trade, but like, he is just, that seminar I went to, man, blew my fucking mind. I love the way he teaches. And a lot of times when I go to seminars, I don't go to learn new moves. I learn to see the person's teaching style. I want to learn how to teach it better. I want to be more effective in the way that I present the material that I'm learning and that I'm doing, you know? So I go to these seminars to be like, I want to pick their brain and see how they teach this. You know, a lot of times I don't even remember the moves and I left. I'm like, fuck, I don't remember that. But it doesn't matter because I picked up like 4 things just the way they teach it. You know, Pedro Sala is one of my favorites. You know, I love the way Jay teaches. My buddy Jay, like, he's my instructor. I love the way he teaches. That's why I stay with him. You know, he's phenomenal.
So your buddy Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know. Do people call you Jay?
Yeah, people call me Jay. It gets really confusing at the school. There, at one point, there was like 6 or 7 J's, and there probably still is. I don't know. It gets really confusing. So most people just go by their last names. We call them either Jay Bell, or we just call him Bell, or they call me Leenders, like, whatever.
Okay, okay. Because I know when I was telling people I was coming up here to do a podcast with you, they're like, "Oh, you mean Jay?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, like Jason Leenders." Like, and
they're probably, we don't know that fucking guy.
Now I'm.
We probably don't even know who I was. It's all right. I don't care.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, it's a small community. I mean,
it is a small community.
You know George, you know all those.
Yeah,
guys
I mean, it is a small community, but like, you know, it's still like, it's a small community, but it's growing so fast and it's getting so big. There's so many good people out there. I mean, there's so many people that, even because I'm not a big competitive guy, so I don't want to up on a competitive, but there's so many people out there that are so good, and I don't know who they are at all. Like, I have no clue who they are.
I know, yeah,
because I don't keep up on.
Trying to keep up with like who is coming up with, like, it's
freaking hard.
So many good guys.
It's so impossible. Now. You know, like you know, when I was really heavily into it and I was training a lot more, you know, like Hodger was the guy, Marcelo, like all those guys, and those are the guys that I like, you know, I look up to, and I like watching them, and you know, I've gotten a chance to train with them and learn from them and stuff. And I think, you know, a lot of those guys are great, and I like their jiu-jitsu because it's simple, you know, because at the end of the day, when you're under stress, you don't need some complex set of moves. It's not going to help you. You know, you need to be able to do something that's simple and that you can go right to, that your brain doesn't have to go, oh shit, what do I have to do now? Like, what's the 5-step program? You know, I'm not, to me, if it's like, it's more than 4 steps, I just kind of like, it's not that I don't want to know it. It's just that that's way too complicated for my brain to handle, you know? So that's kind of how I approach this. But, I mean, it's not for everybody. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. Everybody's, you know, like I said, I put down something about the lockdown, and people lost their damn minds. And I was like, listen, at the end of what I said, I was like, this is my opinion.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, like,
but everybody lost their line. Oh, well, you can do sweeps, you can do... I'm like, I'm not discounting any of that stuff. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying you can't submit the guy from the lockdown and crush his calf and make him tap. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying from my perspective, from a fighting perspective, I'm thinking if I'm on my back, most likely the guy is bigger and stronger than me. Why would I want to lock him into a position where he's on top of me and I can't move? That makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean,
it makes no sense to me. One of the key principles of fighting is movement, right?
Yes.
Movement, distance, timing, right? Those are some of the principles of fighting, period. Why would I want to limit any of those? Why would I want to limit my movement? I don't want to limit my movement. I want to be able to move as much as I possibly can. Granted, do I want to be on the ground on a fight? No. Because I limit my mobility, right? I don't want to be on my ground. I don't want to be on my knees. I want to be where I can move a lot, right? But if I get stuck there and I'm on my back, why would I want to limit my... I don't like half guard either. I'm not a huge half guard fan, okay? I've watched UFC. How many people have been finished from bottom half guard?
A lot.
Rest my case, right? So now let's add lockdown to that. You're locking yourself even more into that position. It just doesn't, from a fighting perspective. Listen, from a jiu-jitsu perspective, use it, man.
Yeah, I think...
If you're a competition guy and you want to use that stuff, to me it's a stalling tactic. And I don't like stalling. I'm like from that old school, you know, Hicks and Gracie, Hoist, you know, all those guys that like I came up looking at when I was, you know, I saw how effective Hoist was in the first couple of UFCs. Listen, I watch Hodger Gracie. He doesn't use any of that stuff, right? Super simple, basic jiu-jitsu, man, and he just fucking decimates everybody.
Well, I think and it's funny, like, it's just so funny that people would be, like, upset about that, or, like, have a stronger, like...
Whatever.
To me, that's crazy. The idea, you know, going back to what we were talking about originally, like, the idea, I don't understand how people could even be offended. Like, what is being offended? Like,
I don't know.
It doesn't, to me, it almost doesn't compute.
It's because they use it and they've had a lot of success with it, but it's never really been tested. And what I mean by that is, you want to test it, have somebody put some gloves on, put a mouthpiece on, and lock somebody down in that position and see what happens.
I don't think...
And let them throw elbows, too.
Well, I don't think the lockdown's ever been used in MMA.
It has. Somebody posted, Anderson Silva used it against Daniel DJ and was very successful. And I'm like, okay, so now you're talking about Anderson Silva, right? Anderson Silva.
We got to put this in context.
One of the best fighters ever. Yeah. We're not even just talking to UFC. We're talking ever in the history of MMA. He is one of the best fighters, right? One of the best athletes. You ever see that guy train? He's one of the best athletes I've ever seen, right? And you're putting that into context with him against DJ, or DC. I'm sorry, Daniel Cormier. Like, it makes no sense. Yeah, you're not Anderson Silva. You're not Anderson Silva.
Yeah, you're talking about it happened one time.
That's like apples and oranges.
Yeah, you're talking about it happened one time, only one time in the whole sport of MMA that we know of. Anyway.
That I know of.
And you're talking about, you know, the top 1% of the 1% of fighters in the world, and it's like, and that's your case. Well, it totally would, like, how many times?
It's a bad argument.
It was, and it was like I was just like, all right.
Because the top 1%, the 1% did it one time in this one fight in the whole scope of the world means that no, anyone.
It's gonna work for everybody.
Yeah,
I just told you in the beginning of this podcast, I could teach you a move that works for me, and it may not work for you.
Yeah.
So how do you I don't know, but and that's the thing. Like we can go back to the law enforcement thing.
Yeah.
I've learned stuff throughout the years, and I'm just like, that's trash. Complete 100% trash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it would never work in a real life. And the reason why I know that is because I've actually done stuff in real life, and I've tested stuff. So, when you're talking about all these crazy knife things, you see these guys doing all this crazy knife stuff. You see these gun disarms. It's like, have you ever tested that in real life? Like, all right, let's take out the fact that somebody's trying to hurt you in anger, which is a completely different variable, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to hurt you in anger. We'll get a sim gun. We'll put some paint bullets in it. We'll have you hold it to somebody's head and see if they can do one of those fancy disarms before they can shoot you in the face. Guaranteed it's going to be very difficult.
Well, they have those the shock knives.
Yeah, so I've trained with those, right? Trust me when I tell you those don't feel good.
I mean, my position, like you see all these guys who do the knife stuff. I go, the only thing with knife fighting is two things. Like, there's none of this like kung fu, like we're gonna engage and do this. I'm gonna grab your wrist. No, the only way to survive a knife fight is to not. It's all distance control really with knife fighting. It's that you either want to be completely away from them, or if you are going to engage them, you have to be right there and grabbing them, going. And
you have to be controlling the blade. You have to be controlling the hand that's controlling the blade.
Yeah.
And if you have a gun, you have a way better chance.
Oh yeah, and that's
and that's still like even if you have distance at your, they call it the 21-foot rule. I don't know where people come up with these rules, but so all right, we have the 21-foot rule. This guy runs slower than that guy. Is that going to change the rule?
It should.
You can run a 40. The other guy runs one in 8 seconds. Isn't that going to change the rule a little bit? Yeah. Like, you can get to me faster than he can get to me, and I have a gun with however many bullets I have. Now, is this guy high on something? Is the bullets going to stop him? Maybe not. I know people that I've read and know people that have been shot several times and they're still alive.
Statistically speaking, I mean, people, even without taking out drugs, people who just have adrenaline,
just a drive,
magazines on them, they will still come at you.
If they have a drive to do something very harmful and they have the adrenaline to do it, you're good luck.
When you read the statistics about it, it's incredible the amount of bullets people can take to the chest, and they will just keep coming.
And everybody talks about like all these, and that's the thing with the whole firearms thing that's been going on. That people don't understand anything about it. First of all, like the politicians know zero.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
and they're the ones, and they're the ones making the laws, which makes no sense to me. But at least have some education. But they had to have education to get where they are, right?
Or they had to know people,
or know people, or get voted in, whatever. But here's the thing, right? Firearms in general, all right? It's a better tool. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And the bottom line, it's just a better tool. Is it 100% effective in this day and age? No. You know why? Because of medical advancement. And why do we have medical advancement? Because of war, right? We've learned so much in the last 20 to 25 years about medical advancement in war. It is unbelievable to me, right? Prior to Mogadishu, right? Nobody was even using tourniquets. After Mogadishu, now we're using tourniquets. Tourniquet is like one of the main pieces of kit in the military now. It's one of the main pieces of kit in law enforcement now, right? But before that, somebody in their freaking lame brain idea got the idea like, oh, well, tourniquets are no good, you'll lose a limb. There was no science or data to back that up. It was just somebody's arbitrary decision to make that maybe some general said, oh, we're not going to do tourniquets, right? But they had been using tourniquets since the Romans in war. So, what, you know what I mean? It's like, who makes these decisions? That's like what I said to you before. Like, somebody makes some, Pat McNamara. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a former Delta Force operator. He's actually from Connecticut. He's a firearms instructor. He teaches like he's got this thing called combat conditioning. He teaches like working out and all this stuff.
What's his name again?
Pat McNamara. Really interesting guy. So
Is that the guy that went to prison?
No, he didn't go to prison. Oh, no.
What am I? No, but it's a book called Combat.
No, he has a whole workout regimen called combat conditioning, and he has like an ebook out on it. Right?
Is his name like Coach Paul or something?
No,
hold
it's a
on.
completely different guy.
Okay,
So
never
this
mind.
guy was
But you know that guy I'm talking about.
I think so, yeah.
The guy who was in jail who like does the one-arm handstand push-up stuff. And...
Yeah, I definitely know who you're talking about. So,
Okay.
so Pat McNamara, he teaches primarily like firearm stuff, but he's like he has a passion for the combat conditioning where he like works out. He's in his 50s. The guy's fucking shredded, you know. He's like a beast. But he has this thing that he talks about where it's called institutional inbreeding, where you learn something from an instructor and you pass it on to me, but you don't think about like what you just learned, whether it works, whether you know it's functional, or it's just like you just keep passing on what you know, right? And that's the problem with law enforcement, you know, military throughout the years. Like they had all these combative programs or martial arts programs that were blended or whatever they had, you know. But if you think about fighting, since the essence of fighting, right, it was all about what? Defending yourself, war, whatever, right? This group of cave people, and there was this group of cave people. This group wanted something from this group, so they attacked them. Now, whether they did it and came to their group, or this one went and met them somewhere to do it, or whether this group got the high ground and had like more of an advantage, right? It's like nothing has changed when you talk about fighting, except that maybe I don't like the grappling aspect of fighting, so I take it out of my program and I just introduce striking. I don't like the striking aspect, so it's just grappling, right? So they take bits and pieces that they either like or don't like, or maybe it doesn't suit them because of their body type, or maybe they're just not very good at it. And that's what's happened for fighting over the years, you know? But there's no, like, way. There's no way. It's just like, what works for you? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't do that doesn't really work for me, that I haven't found to work for me yet. You know, maybe somebody can show me something where I'm like, oh shit, man, I wish I knew that. Now it'll work, maybe, you know? I don't know, but I can't keep just completely like throw it out, you know? People have talked about like the lockup program and how they don't particularly like it, or they whatever. Like there's good stuff and bad stuff in it, you know?
Let me tell you, as you know, I guess as a student of the lockup program, I did not like it. I thought it was ridiculous for one reason only. At least during my time there, we did some striking on a bag. We did.
Who taught it though?
You guys did.
I didn't teach it.
Well, you taught us. You didn't teach. I don't recall.
I taught you the ground portion.
You taught us the ground stuff. Yes, yeah. I don't remember who specifically taught us the striking stuff. And like, that's. The striking stuff I thought was just ridiculous. I get like the principle. Oh, you twist your hips around and the force of your palm strike. I get that stuff. We did an arm triangle choke from guard. It was, and we took them, swept them, roll them over. We did that, but that was it.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. We went over the strikes. I'm okay. We did that one ground thing. My biggest problem was that we never got to experience what it felt like to have a resisting opponent. Yeah. We just
See, I do that. I do that now. I have them roll for 2 minutes.
See that? Like, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. So I have them do like 2-minute drills, or we'll do drills for a little while, and then once I see that they're getting proficient, I have them roll. One of the last classes, one of the guys called me out because he was a wrestler. He wrestled in high school, so he wanted to challenge himself, I guess. I don't know. Challenge me. He thought he could take. I don't know. I don't know what he thought.
He could take you.
So he's like, I think I could take you down from the feet, because like we had done some stuff where I demonstrated the move, and I would use him because he had a wrestling background. So I was like, all right, so he has some grappling background. I'll use him. It's a little bit easier if somebody knows how to move a little bit than somebody who has absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
So I would use him, and I remember I was doing something, I was demonstrating, and he tried to counter it and tried to do something, so I swept him, and I ended up getting on top, and I think I ended up armbarring him or something. Because he kept going, and I was I'm not going to stop, so...
Instinct to kick it.
So then he was just like, one day he was like, and he was kind of a clown, he was a cool kid. He was like, Lieutenant, I think I could take you from the feet. I'm like, all right, whatever, and I just kind of They would always bring it up, like, and I was just like, whatever. So it was towards the end of the academy. It was like maybe the last 4 or 5 days. I went in. I took my uniform shirt off. I just had my t-shirt on. I was like, all right. So I started picking people. I was like, come on, let's go. They're like, what? I'm like, start from the mount. So I'd let them start from a better position.
Cuff me or arrest me.
Yeah. So I would have them start from like mount or guard. Like I would be on the bottom, or side control. And so I went through like 4 people, and then I picked him. And I was like, come on, you want to start from your feet? Let's go. So he started from my feet, and of course, like I choked him, and like, I don't know. It wasn't long. No. The second time he did.
Oh, okay.
Right? But I was already tired.
Yeah,
I'd already gone through like 4 people, and then I got to him, and...
These are young guys too, I'm sure.
Yeah, much younger than me. So, I rolled with him. I think I guillotined him. And then he wanted to go again. He wanted to get his breath, and then he wanted to go again. I'm like, all right, cool. So we started again. And then, like, he took me down, but I think I did the same thing. I think I choked him or armbarred him or something. And then I went with a couple more. I ended up going with, like, 8 people, which I was fucking completely gassed after that. But, I think it's... And it's not to toot my horn or anything. I think it's good for them to understand what people are capable of.
Yes.
Right? Because there are guys that are in prison that are watching fucking UFC.
Yes.
And they don't necessarily have to do the moves. They're mentally conditioning their brain to see certain things, and it's triggering stuff.
Yeah.
I mean...
You told us this, I remember.
There was a kid in
Some of these guys
Hartford.
are MMA fighters. Some of them do train, like, a little bit. Like, they have some kind of training.
There was a 15-year-old kid in Hartford that almost choked out a Hartford officer and with a guillotine choke. And I guarantee you that kid doesn't train. I guarantee you it was just from watching shit. I mean, think about it. What did we watch when we were growing up? Fucking WWE, wrestling, right? What did we do with our friends? We practiced that shit. And, every once in a while you hear some backyard kid getting his neck broken or something crazy happening. Kid getting thrown through a fucking table and, like now his spine's all fucked up. Yeah. But, I mean, that stuff happens. I mean, these kids, they do it. They'll see it and they practice it at home. Or I remember me and my buddy as kids, like, we put fucking boxing gloves on and go out and fucking try to knock each other's heads off. Stupid. Because, we had like one Mickey Mouse glove that was like a 10-ounce glove and the other one was a big like 16-ounce glove. Mm-hmm. And, like you're fucking throwing haymakers at each other. You could have killed each other. But, I mean, that's the kind of shit you did as a kid. Now they don't. They play video games. But,
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And so you can never, like, you can't underestimate people because you think they don't know. Like Joe Rogan says, you see this little fucking guy, Marcelo Garcia, walking down the street with this big-ass smile on his face. You have no idea he can kill you with his bare hands.
Oh, my God, yeah.
No fucking idea.
He could probably decapitate you because he's notorious.
He's ridiculous.
For his chokes.
I mean, and it's crazy. Like, it's crazy to me that people don't know. And they get into this law enforcement career, this job that they want to get into, and you start telling them about stuff, and they look at you like you're crazy. And then they come back later, and they're like, oh, my God. And I'm like, I tried to tell you.
But even
I tried to show you. I tried to explain to you. I tried to put you in a moment a little bit. Because, listen, I don't care how much training you do on the mats, anywhere. You cannot mimic a fight in real life. It's impossible. And I don't care what anybody says. They have this whole acronym, train like you fight. It's impossible. You can't. Right?
Yeah.
It's like you do shooting. Like, I teach that stuff, right? I teach firearms. I'm a post-certified firearms instructor. I teach stuff like that. But there's nobody shooting back at me. I'm shooting at paper. I'm shooting at a fucking steel target down the range, right? Yeah. There's no in-the-moment type thing. I can put you under a timer. That's a little bit of stress, right? You can go to a competition. That's a little bit of stress. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. You can put you in a competition. That's a little bit of stress. But you are not having somebody fight you back in anger, where they're pissed off and they're trying to fucking hurt you really badly. Like in a jiu-jitsu match, you're just going, Like, you got this guy, he's not angry at you, he's not pissed off at you, unless you do something stupid to him and then he gets pissed. Like Marcelo that time that did, I forgot the guy's name, that big huge bastard, he fucking ankle locked the shit out of him after he body slammed him. Marcelo had his back and the guy stood up and the guy fell backwards.
Yeah.
You could tell Marcelo was pissed after he got his breath. And he just ankle locked him in like 30 seconds. So I mean, but that is like, we try to put these guys through some simulated type training, some situational type stuff. We've advanced the academy a little bit where we're doing more situational stuff.
Good. No,
from
that's awesome.
from when you were, and they get a reality. Like we did one the other day, where we had like a simulated fight, a couple of people in the room, and they had to work their way through a crowd of people and get to the fight, and everybody ran right into the fight. And I'm like, what are you doing? Every single person did it, the whole class. And I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, and then the three people that were fighting, because they were all brothers and sisters, they turned on the, on the marshal, So I was like, what are you doing? But I learned that in a bar. I learned that in a bar setting. You don't just go run into a fight. I don't know who's who. I don't know who's buddies with who, like who's getting mixed up. I remember my buddy one time, there was a big fight, and he come running, and I grabbed him. I was like, stop. He's like, what? I'm like, well, let's find out who the players are first. I'll let them fucking tire themselves out and duke it out, and then we'll get them. And he's like, what? Like, he couldn't even wrap his brain around it. And then, like, after they got tired a little bit, we went in, and I was like, dude, I'll take that big dude, you take the other dude, and we dragged their ass out, and they were tired. They were all huffing. They couldn't even fight us back because they were so tired.
That's the thing. Most people, most people who don't train, or actually, no, I would say all people that don't train, 30 seconds, and they are completely out of breath, completely tired.
When we first started doing the drills, man, they're like fucking beat. Yeah. But like one guy, like the guy that challenged me, he's like, Lieutenant, he's like that week that we did like all the ground stuff, he's like, I lost 7 pounds. And he wasn't even a big guy. He was already a small guy in good shape. And I was like, wow, that's good, man. Like I was like that. He's like, yeah, those drills, all that stuff was awesome. He loved it. It was like brought him back a little bit to his wrestling days. One of the girls from the newer class, she started training. She's training at my bug Doug's place.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think is really kind of alarming is that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like if you're gonna have like an academy, like any kind of law enforcement academy, I think screw lockup, jiu-jitsu for 4 months. I think it should be that.
I think it has its benefits. I mean, if you think about in the law enforcement community, you can just go on YouTube and type up like LE fights or police fights.
Yeah.
Watch them, right? Study them a little bit. Study them for 10 minutes. What are you going to see? Common denominator is the fight goes to the ground at some point, right? And usually it's with the cop on the bottom because they don't know what they're doing. And that's unfortunate, but it happens, right? And they don't know what to do once they get there. But if you look at like certain programs, we'll just take lockup because that's what I do, and then you take any other program. What is the common thing you're trying to do? Put the person on the ground and control them.
Yes.
So you can get them handcuffs. So we're basically working off the ground. Whether it's I'm trying to control somebody or I'm on the bottom, but I need to know. What was it, Raina?
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah, oh my god, I think we could talk about so many things and go into so much depth with whether it's American history, Constitution, amendments, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu history. Definitely have to do another podcast.
Sure, man, anytime.
I don't know, what final thoughts, on anything to talk about. Law enforcement, Jiu-Jitsu, philosophy.
I don't know. Talk about so much stuff. I don't even, now you're trying to trying to pinpoint me now. Trying to put the screws on me. No. I don't know, man. Bottom line is people talk about different kinds of training and put stuff down. I've done it in the past, certain systems, whatever. Like, the bottom line is go out and train, do something. But when you're training, to me, the biggest thing is, like, why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you learning this technique? What's going on with this technique? I'm a total why guy. Like, why is this happening? What? Why is this work opposed to this? Try to figure out the whys behind it, and what are the ramifications if I do this? Like, if I had to use this in a real life situation, what is gonna happen to me? And I think a lot of it just doesn't. I don't know if people just don't know, or they're just regurgitating what they've been taught. But it's like you really need to understand. I think coming from that law enforcement background, I have a better understanding and seeing what happens actually in court.
Yeah, because that's the next level. Like, there are laws and there's interpretations of laws.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it's laws are just subject to interpretation. It's
Yeah.
you have a prosecutor interpreting one way, a defense attorney interpreting another way, a judge interpreting another way, and then you have another. So that's just state law, and then it goes to another level, and then they're going to interpret it somewhere else. Then it goes to another level. Then they're going to interpret it another way. So it's all in how the lawyers are going to try to manipulate it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is what the bottom line is.
And politics, unfortunately, even though like in our system, it's the judicial branch is supposed to not be political. It sadly is at all levels, and and
everything's
so,
political.
And so for the citizen, it's really hard to know how
the
to conduct
jiu-jitsu
yourself.
community is political.
It is.
Everything's political. There is nothing that is not. You get a job, it's a political thing. Everything has some form of politics involved in it at some point. It's a shame, but that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is now, you can look at that jiu-jitsu community. Unfortunately, it's like, all right, I've known of people that have gotten belts because they paid a certain amount of money. It's crazy to me, but whatever. Hey, if that's what you want to do and that's how you feel like you need to get it, that's cool. Like I said earlier, like it's not a big thing to me. The big thing to me is like
What you can do, actually.
more knowledge, right? I want more knowledge. I want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to be able to pass on what I know to people, to a lot of people, and to me that in turn is going to make me better at the end. I think that's how it works. I show you something, you take that, and that's what I've always loved about this art is I show you something, and you take that, and you're like, oh, it's pretty cool, and then maybe you catch it a few times, or you get it, and you're like, hey, Leenders showed me this cool thing, but I kind of tweaked it a little bit, and I do this, but he shows it like this, and then I do it this way, and now you just pass two things on to the next person, and then they take that, and they learn the two things that you did, and then they pass on three things to the next person, and it just never fucking ends. It's always evolving, it's always getting better, it's always like just transforming into something different. So to me, that's the beauty of what we do. I don't think there's any other martial art out there that does that.
I don't think there's any other martial art quite like jiu-jitsu. It's
No.
it's special. It really is.
It's very unique.
It's different from all the other ones, and it's incredible. But awesome. I think it goes without saying, we'll have to have another podcast.
Sure, man.
There's so much more we could discuss.
Sure. We'll talk about my motorcycle accident next time.
Yeah, I want to get to that. We'll save it for the next one.
That was unfortunate, but it was definitely an experience that I needed to go through for some reason.
Well, we'll get to that the next time. But hey, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We'll do it again soon.
Cool, man.
All right, thank you.